Hello, good evening, students. Welcome to Byju's. Welcome to another session of your current affairs. Today, what we are going to discuss is your environment, science, and tech current affairs and specific topics from the Down to Earth magazine. So, again, how are all my dear students doing today? How are you guys? Because normally we start off with the session. So, how are you today? Yes, I'm seeing a lot of you giving all the love, all the good comments. So now, again, when we usually start off the class, I keep telling you because we are right now in a very new platform as it is. We are on the Byju's Exam Prep app. And in the Byju's Exam Prep app, this is like a transition where we are all going through, and you all have right now found your place where you are able to access all your study material at one single place. Okay, so this is the entire philosophy of the Byju's Exam Prep app. Now, if you're very new to this, what we are going to do over here is just give you a brief intro into it. You can log on to the BEP app using your mobile number or the registered Gmail account which is there. Once you get into the app, you have options to choose your course which is there. So in this case, this would be IAS, or inside IAS itself, you have IAS and IAS Hindi. You can choose either of the courses which you have joined, and once you click on that, it will take you to two home screens depending upon the course that you've joined. So if you've joined for the tablet learning program, you are going to see a screen like this. If you've joined for the BHLP program, you're going to see a screen like this. Now, in each of these cases, in the tablet learning program screen, you will see that there is a section called as home, and it is in this home section where you will be having the videos and any other tablet lectures that are available for you. Even the webinar videos will be made available to you over there. Coming to this BHLP program, here you would be having something called as My Classroom, and it is in this My Classroom area where you would be having the new videos which are there, the live classes for which you are enrolled for. So now the idea is all your study material, your unit test, your webinars, your async videos, whatever is there related to your preparation is at a single point. So you don't have to go about and search for each of these things and waste your time. This is the idea of the BAP app. Now with that over there, let's get into our session for today. So this session is quite special. I'll tell you why. One, in the first place, we have a set of topics which I do feel like at least the fifth topic over here, the INS Vikrant which is there, the FRT which is over here, the jute economy, all of these have potential both from the mains and the prelims perspective which is there. Apart from that, we will be trying something new right now. Now, again, those who have attended my classes constantly would know we try out something new in each of our classes which are there. Sometimes it would be answer writing, sometimes it would be note making. Today, what I have planned for you is a surprise. Now, what I have planned is the fact that this is a science and technology session, which means you are going to come across certain terms which you might not be normally knowing in a general studies perspective. Some technological terms, some technical terms, some scientific terms which are there. So what I have planned is, I would not tell you what those specific terms are. We will be going through the session. I'll be explaining those terms for you. And at the end, we will play a game. Now, I'll tell you what the game is at the end. But what I want you to do from your end is, any other time where I am telling a certain technologically relevant word or technically relevant word, I want you to keep a note of it. I want you to ensure that you understand that term in a proper manner. Okay, so can I get that promise from all of you that you all will pay attention to all these technical terms that we are discussing today? Can I get a thumbs up if you're on board to play this and listen to the session and play that final game with me? Perfect. All my dear students have agreed to it. Now coming on to the topics that we have today. So we have 5 very interesting topics, something called as urban agriculture. We normally hear agriculture and we directly think villages. But right now we're going to discuss a topic which is related to urban agriculture. Then we have something called as jute economy. Might be interesting for a lot of us who are venturing into this agriculture field which is there. Why? Because we normally hear about rice, wheat, all the major crops that India grows about. But jute happens to be one primary crop that adds a lot of value to India, but something is going wrong in the jute economy. Apparently, we have a very important competitor in the jute economy and they are taking us over. So now we have to understand why is India being in that low position when it comes to jute economy, and this is a topic which has a lot of mains relevance. Coming to the next one, which is facial recognition technology. Here you are going to come across something that is quite interesting. The idea is some countries along the world are facing a lot of controversy because of the facial recognition technology. And as it is itself, I have told you this before, UPSC has some soft corner for all these biometric technologies which are there. Your fingerprint, iris scanning, Aadhaar. So UPSC has a soft corner, and on top of it, facial recognition is also something that is there in the news constantly. So we have to discuss it. Then coming to making Indian Ocean plastic free. Again, this topic has so much of relevance from the environment perspective. The Down to Earth magazine did a very, very detailed article on this. And Down to Earth is one place from where UPSC tends to pick up questions for your prelims. So again, this is why we are discussing that topic. And finally, INS Vikrant. INS Vikrant happens to be the pride of our nation and it is going to be the pride of our nation in the coming ages also, and we have to discuss the current affair related to it. So without much delay, are you all ready for the first topic? Yes. So coming to urban agriculture. Okay, think about it. When we normally hear agriculture, we tend to think about the rural areas. Why? Why do we generally tend to think about the rural areas? For ages, the agriculture that is being practiced in India is of that type. You have villages, you have land in villages, you have water resources in villages, you have the necessary minerals and everything. So it's easier for agriculture to be practiced in the village area. But now we are reaching to a point, it's not just enough that your villages start producing these goods. Why? Because we are going to face a time where we are going to start facing resource scarcity in villages and in other areas also. So to constantly depend just on villages to be like, okay, give us our rice, give us our wheat, is quite bad because of this. We have to find alternate sources to practice agriculture, and thus enters the idea of urban agriculture. Urban agriculture is basically like a solution to a lot of problems that we are facing. For example, the rapid population growth, the food crisis, climate change. Now you must be wondering, what is this magic solution that is like a solution to all our problems? So the idea of urban agriculture or urban farming is, in very simple terms, it refers to the cultivation, processing and distribution of agriculture products in urban and suburban settings. What are suburban settings? Suburban are those areas which are on the path to be an urbanized place. So for example, if you have a city like this, surrounding the city in its outskirts and all, you will have areas called as suburban areas. They have not been fully urbanized, they are on the path to be urbanized. Okay, so here urban farming is the kind of cultivation, processing and distribution of agriculture products that happens in cities, that happens in urban and suburban areas. Now, we all have been to cities, right? Do you see enough space in cities to actually practice urban agriculture? How many of you think this idea of urban agriculture is sounding like a very improbable idea? Like, how is this even possible? How many of you feel that way? Some of you are coming up with very good, like, no, this is possible. There are something, there's no, yeah, there are people who are observing, there's not even parking. How can we even go for agriculture over there? And thus enters the different types of urban farming. See, what happens is, when you are having a constraint of space, constraint of resources, constraint of your water and everything, in the urban areas, they somehow try to incorporate what is there in the urban areas? Buildings. They somehow try to make use of these buildings to practice agriculture. Now, this figure that I've given to you, take it and etch it into your mind from a prelims perspective. Why? Look at all the terms over there. You have school garden, rooftop greenhouses. What are rooftop greenhouses? You have, what are greenhouses? You have these very protected environment where you can cultivate crops. Where are they putting it? Not on the ground or anything. The buildings are all there. The buildings have roof. On the roof of the building, they have made rooftop greenhouses. They've made indoor farming. Inside, how many of you have seen these? Most of these places, they try to do this for this aesthetic purpose. You have these vertical farming, vertical gardens and all that. It will be like you have a wall and the wall will entirely be of greenery and green plants and everything. How many of you have seen that? Yes, yes. A lot of you've seen that. Now, the idea is, now instead of just growing some ornamental plants like money plant and everything, you try to cultivate crops over there. Now, the idea might be seeming, you must be thinking right now, okay, the rice and wheat which is there on the farm, how will it start growing on the walls which are there or on the areas which are there? And this is where you have several new techniques to have this kind of an agriculture, which we'll be discussing in the next slide. What you have to understand right now is, so it's very practically possible to practice urban farming because they have tried forming these urban farmings in the community garden. What is community garden? If you have a small patch of land, all the people living in that nearby areas, they will come together and they will cultivate there in that small patch of land. Edible landscape, edible walls. What is this? Edible walls and edible landscape? Can anyone give me a very, it sounds very improbable. So any imaginary idea as to what these edible walls would be? Usable. Okay, some of you are saying usable. Now the idea is, I was just looking through all these pictures of edible walls. What they have planted is, on these walls, they have planted your organic things like your fruits, your vegetables and all that. Basically giving the picture that you can actually pluck out things from the wall and eat, thereby giving the impression that it is an edible wall. Edible means what? Something that can be eaten. So you have edible wall, edible landscapes, all these different terms. They could very well ask you a question as to what are the different forms of urban farming possible. They'll give out a list. Now that list does not end there. You have something else also. And these methods you have to understand in a detailed manner. You have something called as vertical farming. Vertical farming, what happens is, you might have something like a wall. On the wall, what happens is, in small pots, in small soil areas, they will cultivate crops. Now, when I'm saying crops, don't always think rice and wheat. You can cultivate something like your ragi, your barley, all of these different kinds of crops which are there. So, whatever is suitable for that kind of a climatic atmosphere, you try to have that in these small soil areas. So in vertical farming, food crops are cultivated. What are food crops? The kind of crops that you can eat, okay, that can be consumed. Food crops are cultivated by planting in vertically stacked layers in order to save space and use minimal energy and water for irrigation. Have you seen how they water these vertical farmings? I happened to be in a place where I was looking at it. It was a huge vertical wall which had all these farming kind of a thing. What they would do is, they will start a water kind of a thing from the top. What happens is, these, what you say, pots are stacked in such a manner that from beginning when they're putting the water, at one pot it will reach, whatever is seeping through that pot will reach to the other one. In that way, from that entire wall, from one to another, the water keeps flowing or dropping, and each of the plant gets, so each of the plant will not get liters of water. It will get only the water that is necessary for it, for that kind of a survival. It's a very beautiful idea because you're saving so much of water and you're saving space. Already the wall is there. You're just doing this on the wall. Next, coming to a little bit more technologically advanced idea. So I'm giving you a clue over here. Maybe one of these terms would be involved in that final game that we would be playing. Okay. So hydroponics. What is hydroponics? You have two words over here, hydro and ponics. Hydro means what? Water. Okay. You are trying to cultivate crops using water alone. So I have a picture for it. We can just look at it. This first picture which is there. What happens is you will have a small kind of an area. What happens is you will have some kind of a crops, maybe like spinach or something like that. And what happens? Only water will be provided to it. No soil. And this water, see, ideally, why do the plants need soil? The soil has some kind of minerals which the plant can absorb. What they would do over here is, in this water, they will use the minerals. They will, for example, the plant needs calcium, the plant needs phosphorus. What they will do is, they will collect these minerals in the form of maybe fertilizers and everything. They will mix it with the water, and then the root of the plant will get it. Which means, even if you don't have land, even if you don't have soil, you can practice this hydroponics. How many of you think this is actually a very innovative idea? I found it to be very innovative for this reason. Yes, it's very good because see, if I want to do so much of agriculture, but then I don't have any land with me, my method to go forward would be hydroponics or something like this, where I can have cultivation in these kind of things and I can get whatever the crops that is needed. Now, so hydroponics, in this method, plants are grown without the use of soil by using water through which nutrients are pumped. Chemical or organic fertilizers both can be used in this system. And it can reduce the amount of water needed to grow, because what happens is, what they do is, they, whenever a plant, for example, you cannot keep a plant for long in that water itself, they take out that water is again recycled and put for the other plants. So it's a very efficient and smart way to use your water and not waste any of your soil. Now coming to another term which we might feel is very similar to the word hydroponics. Aquaponics. Aqua, we might think, aqua is also water. But here there is a difference. Aquaponics are quite different because this is a combination of two things. Here, what is a combination of it? It is a combination of aquaculture and hydroponics. Aquaculture is the practice of raising fish. So if you look at this diagram over here, can you see this? You have plants growing, but in that water which is over there, you have the fish also growing. So it's like a double thing. You have fish growing, and whatever this water is given to the plant, what happens is that water goes into these fish tank which is there. From the fish tank, what happens? The fish will try to take in whatever the oxygen or anything which is dissolved. The fish will try to excrete, it will also have bodily functions. That water gets again pumped in so that this plant gets some kind of a mineral or organic content also. So here in your aquaponics, it's not just water. You have your water and your fishing also, and whatever is the waste or whatever is the thing that comes from the fishing is used for the agriculture, and whatever is the wastewater that comes from the agriculture is used for the fishing also. So this is like a very cyclic, recyclable form. So if I had to put a definition for it, in aquaponics, fish are raised in tanks of water where plants are also grown, so that the waste from the fish provides food for the plants, and the plants keep the water clean. How do the plants keep the water clean? The plants have roots. The roots will absorb all this water. What happens is, each time it absorbs, what happens? The plant takes it. Inside the plant's metabolism, it gets purified, and then what comes out is in the form of any of these plant growth which is there. So the waste of the water does not get percolated over there. It represents the very beautiful relationship that is between water, aquatic life, bacteria, and all the nutrient dynamics which is there. So now you understand there's a clear difference between hydroponics and aquaponics. Remember this, hydro means just water. Aqua means you are building in with aquaculture, Aquaculture is the practice of raising fish. Is the difference between hydroponics and aquaponics clear to all of you? Yes, Madhusudan, yes, lotus plant and all, yes, it can grow in these conditions. Perfect. Now coming into one more method which is there, it's called as backyard farming. And this is something, if you've lived in a city, you might have had some sort of semblance of this. What basically happens in backyard farming is any space that you have behind your house or at the bottom of your house or anywhere, backyard means what? Behind the house which is there. Most of Indian houses have a space behind it. So what happens is in this area, you try to cultivate whatever is necessary. For example, your tomatoes, your spinach, your certain crops like your cucumbers, all of these things, carrots, all of these things are normally seen to be grown. You have your leafy vegetables also, like for example your coriander, mustard, these kind of things are grown. Your what you say, your bitter gourd, which is your karela, I believe. So all these kind of things can be grown in your backyard farming. Now, some of you have asked me the examples of hydroponics and aquaponics. Both in hydroponics and aquaponics, you can grow crops which are of all of these natures. You might not be able to grow like full-fledged crops like rice or wheat because they require a lot of extra climatic conditions. But crops that are normally grown in dry land farming. Dry land farming crops are mostly your pulses. You have crops in the form of ragi, barley, jowar, these kind of things. Then one prominent area which is used for in hydroponics and aquaponics would be your fruits and vegetables. So the idea is whoever wants whatever food for their consumption, they grow it in their home only, so that it reduces the dependence that we have on rural agriculture. Clear? Now coming on to the benefits of urban farming. Urban farming has a lot of benefits, starting from the economic aspect, income generation. A lot of people who are there in these urban areas, they've managed to make it like their own kind of cooperative farming. A lot of people who are at home, especially if you notice in the time of this corona pandemic, when people were at doing this work from home, a lot of people were there at home, the entire family would even engage into these kind of farmings, and any surplus vegetables or fruits that they get, they would sell it off, thereby getting some kind of an income generation. Next, coming into local government benefits. In some places like Delhi, what they've done is, Delhi is actually the best example of like a bustling urban city which is there, right? In Delhi, what they've done is, they form these local bodies who would go and collect any surplus vegetables which are there in your buildings and everything, and they would put it out for sale or put it out in a form of cooperative market. You see a lot of these hearts that are happening in very recently also, if during that summer season and everything which was there, you saw a lot of these crops coming in. What they do is they form local cooperative things. Now these local cooperatives in most of the cases will be aligned to the local government over there, which means this is also a method by which the local government can get some income which is there. So whatever money you get from the sale of the fruits and vegetables, some of it the local government will take, some will be given to the owners. This is actually a very good idea for areas where this local government thing is in a very, what you say, poor manner. Then coming into urban redevelopment. In most of these areas now, you see this, we want to make our cities beautiful. City beautification happens, and you see just normal plants being grown here and there. These plants might not have any utility as it is. Maybe it looks very pretty, it's very ornamental, but it cannot be consumed. But when it comes to urban redevelopment, what is redevelopment? Meaning that normally the idea of urban development was to make all these buildings, make all these economic ventures. Redevelopment means you are visualizing development, or you are thinking of development from an environment perspective. So now you try bringing in all this agriculture benefits over there. So anytime any building is being created, if you have like a good wall, your first thought will be, or those who are planning this, their first thought will be, that's a good wall. let's plant something on the wall. Let's have a vertical farm over there. Okay, some space is there on the rooftop. Let's have a company, or what you say, garden over here, or company farming area over here, where the entire company will be contributing. So this new idea of urban redevelopment has happened. Then coming into the environmental benefits, and this is the most obvious thing that we all see. You, when you go to cities itself, I've personally experienced this for myself. You had these malls and all which do their walls with all these greenery. It's so, the mall would be at the middle of the city, but still when you stand close by it, you feel there is some kind of a wind and some kind of a coolness over there. What is the idea? The idea is the economic benefits or the environmental benefits that the plants create. So here it improves the urban environmental quality, the air quality improves, especially in cities like Delhi, and all this kind of a method will go a long way in ensuring that the pollution is reduced. Integrated pest management system. What happens is, in all of these areas which are there, wherever you have crops, you can practice these new techniques of integrated pest management. Any new kind of organic farming which is there, all this can be practiced, and you can see how it is benefited, because this is one area. Maybe the rural area might not be that open to practicing all these new techniques. The urban area is open to doing all this. Reduction of the local carbon footprint. I was explaining to you guys the other day, what is carbon footprint? The amount of carbon that we all generate. So imagine on the top of my house, I'm having this farm and I'm having all these crops over there. Even on a daily basis, if I'm commuting to what you say, to my office or anything in a scooty, or I'm creating a certain pollution, I'm creating a certain carbon footprint, this will get compensated with the kind of farming that I'm doing. So the total carbon footprint that I might be producing would be comparatively less. Is this idea of carbon footprint clear to all of you? Yes, yes, yes. Now coming into the social and cultural benefits. The first thing is, you can have this new idea of, you already have urban cooperatives, but most of the places the urban cooperatives are not very well functioning. Okay, but your rural cooperatives are normally well functioning. In the case of urban cooperatives, what normally happens is, they don't have something like a common goal that unites them. When you have urban agriculture, there is a common goal, and this kind of a thing can be done. So your urban cooperative societies, where people come together, pool in the resources and share the resources with everyone, that can be done. And finally, social and emotional well-being. When you have, nowadays the kind of, even when you try to order what you say, something on your online forums, you will start seeing that you have tomato, and then you have something called as residue free organic tomato. Now the question is, the other one is clearly, so they are putting some kind of a, what you say, fertilizer on it, some kind of an insecticide on it. So what happens is, when you know for a fact that you are the one raising this crop, you are not using any poison on it, this will give you some kind of a social and emotional well-being. So this idea of urban agriculture will go a long way in the urban areas. But as some of you were already pointing out to me, here there are a lot of challenges also. What are the different challenges which are there? Think about it. Do you think this is actually a very easy method? First thing, let's start off from the beginning idea. In the first place, there's very limited awareness about urban farming. How many of you knew this idea only today? Like right now, when I started explaining, is the point that you all knew about this idea. How many of you are there like that? Exactly. That is what a lot of us do not know about, these kind of ideas, and we are civil service aspirants. So imagine about those people who are common men, who might not be exposed to these ideas. So there's limited awareness. Next thing, there is actually a space scarcity even then. Take a city like Bombay or take a city like Delhi, you, even on the roofs, you have people living. So where is the scope for farming over there? People do not even have enough space to make one room into one place. So what is happening is there is actually a space scarcity in a lot of urban areas, especially in cities like Kolkata, Mumbai. In all of these places, the population density is quite high. So when the population density is quite high itself, in whatever areas that you have also, you have people filled in with it. So this becomes an issue. Next thing is lack of experience and knowledge. It's very easy to say, let's do hydroponics. But actually hydroponics requires you to understand how you cannot take one plant and flood it with water, no? How much water is required? How much mineral should I mix to get proper growth? These kind of things should be there. If you don't have the knowledge, how will you practice it? And is anyone giving you the knowledge? No. Nobody is training you in any of these things. So that is a problem. Then, as a lot of you pointed out, all of these techniques, your vertical garden, vertical farming, backyard farming, greenhouse on the rooftop, everything has a high initial setup and maintenance cost. Especially if you're going for ideas like greenhouse and all that, glass house or greenhouse and all that, what happens is you will need to have constant maintenance. Otherwise, the plants will die out. So here, this is a huge problem. The urban areas in India cannot be compared to the urban areas maybe like in Netherlands or Amsterdam or any of these places or Norway or so. The urban areas in India are also poor. So then in those poor areas, how will you practice it? That becomes a constraint. Okay, then coming into water and soil shortage. So in some places there is water shortage, some places there is soil shortage. In, for example, if you take cities like Chennai and all that, every year Chennai goes through a water crisis. So at that point, when people do not have water to drink, to put crops over there would be a very unviable solution. Then the loss and damage of crops from birds and rodents. This is possible that even if it's an urban area or a rural area, this is something that can be possible, because urban area, again, you will have a different set of organisms coming and attacking your crops, but still this kind of a pest kind of attack would be possible. Then coming to the final point, we try making this environmentally safe. But the problem is, if you don't do it properly, this method, just take the example of that hydroponics. In the hydroponics, I'm using all this water and I'm giving this to the plant which is there. And after using that, what I'm doing is I'm just throwing that water away. I'm throwing that water which is having all this fertilizer or anything mixed into it. I'm throwing it into the land which is there, which means I will be itself polluting the soil and the water which is available. So if it is not done properly, this method can also cause pollution. So these are all the challenges of urban farming which is there. Now, after hearing the challenges and hearing the benefits, what do you guys conclude? I want to know your opinion on this. What do you think? Do we still have to practice this? What is your concept about this? Rodents means rats. Yes, I think a lot of you go for the idea because, see, the end point of it, we might have constraints. But what are we looking at? We are looking at a time where even your villagers won't have proper resources. So at that point, we will anyway be forced to cultivate our own food. If we start off right now, we will at least be in the course of time able to have some kind of an expertise in this. This is why in the case of urban farming, we are seeking a lot of international help. We have sought out from Israel, and they are planning to send us all the different kinds of technology that is involved in these kind of urban farming, because Israel is one country which is a huge expert when it comes to these methods. So I hope this topic has been clear to all of you. Now I'll tell you one more thing. From this topic, there are few words which will be featured into our into our final game which is there. So I hope all the concepts are clear to you, all the terms are clear to you. Now before I go into the question, I found this very interesting too, and I thought I'll share it with you. During the World War II time, okay, there was the Second World War, right? So what happened is there was a lot of destruction happening all around the world. America as a country, this was the time where America felt like, okay, we have to put all our resources into this World War II. And the American people obviously were like, what are you doing, guys? Please don't put all our resources into the world war, which is there. We need our crops also. But then what happened is America wanted to show its power. And so what it did is it put all its resources into fighting the World War II. At this point, people in America started raising concerns like, okay, what will we do for our agriculture? What will we do for our farming and everything? At this point, America came up with an idea called as Victory Garden. Imagine this. They're fighting a war and already there is so much of destruction. They made it into such a manner, they said that, see, we are going to win this war. So what you all have to do is you create your own victory gardens. What are these victory gardens? Like when America wins the war and comes back, America will, for whoever are coming back, this will be a sight to behold. What you try to do is in your own houses, in your own rooftops, in all your cities, you cultivate your own garden which is having all these crops. Very smart, no? What they did is the people are telling, hey, give us food, and they are like, you only make your own food, we will go fight the war and come. So this was the idea of victory garden. So now the idea is the urban concept of urban agriculture is not something that is very new. There are a lot of countries which have been practicing it. This is one such example of a country practicing it to actually motivate its people to support the war and to ensure that they make their own food. How many of you think America did a very cunning thing over here with the victory garden? A lot of you are saying yes. What else can we expect from America? Now coming on to the poll question of the day. Start looking at the question with reference to the types of urban farming techniques recently in the news. There are some techniques given. There are details given. You all can read the statements which are there. Which of the pairs are correctly matched is the question. They are asking about vertical farming, aquaponics and backyard farming. So give me a moment to actually generate the poll which is there. So just a moment. Okay, can we start the poll? All of you ready? Try avoiding all the silly mistakes which are there. Yes, Satish, it would come. It would come under the aspect of this thing. The idea of urban agriculture, Miyawaki would also come. Yes. Terry, yes. This when you study climate smart agriculture, there also you can have all these techniques because this has an impact on the environment also. Those who heard the term Miyawaki is actually a Japanese form of cultivation, which is actually used for urban afforestation. Afforestation means cultivation of trees which are there. But it's not these full-fledged big trees which are there. It's these small trees. Okay, guys, your poll. I won't show the leaderboard right now. Just give me some time. Let's, again, but then I'll just show it once at this point. Okay. All of you are seeing the leaderboard? I won't call out any names or anything. I hope all of you are seeing the leaderboard. Now coming into the question, how is it that only 68% of you marked the right answer if you understood all the concepts? Look at this, vertical farming. Food crops are cultivated by planting in vertically stacked layers. Very simple. That is the first one. Aquaponics. What is asked? Aquaponics, not hydroponics. Aquaponics is what? Plants are grown without the soil, wherein all nutrients are pumped by adding them to the water from outside. Is this aquaponics? This is what? Hydroponics, right? So they interchanged the definitions and you fell for it. I believe those who got your answers wrong would have got this statement wrong. How many of you got this? Then coming into backyard farming, that is correct. Practicing of utilizing any kind of space in the backyard to grow and produce your own food. This is correct. The answer is 1 and 3 only. Okay. Now I know when we do these polls, some of you get demotivated and be like, I got the wrong answer. Why? What is happening to me? This is why I have devised this new technique to finally do that game where you all will feel like, okay, you've understood these concepts. So just keep still. Wait till the end. Now coming on to the question related to this. Urban agriculture is a key solution to many of the problems faced by modern cities. So you can mention what are the problems the modern cities face. The modern cities face the idea of pollution which is there. The modern cities do not have enough money. The modern cities have a very bad kind of urbanization which is there. All of these things you can mention, and you can say how urban agriculture solves each of those problems. This is actually an answer which you can be a little bit creative also and write. Coming to my question, how many of you wrote the answer that I asked you all to write in the last session which was there? Some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no. Guys, see, the thing is, even if you're writing slowly, even if you're taking some time, get started a little bit. Okay, if you are almost 2 to 3 months into your preparation, get started with your answer writing. Okay, I will tell this to you very sweetly. At one point I will start telling you to keep writing answers. At this point you will be like, okay, I should have listened to her. Then coming to the second topic, jute economy. Now, in jute economy, why are we discussing this in the first place? This is because in the recent past, it has been seen that India's jute economy is in the state of decline, while Bangladesh's jute economy is flourishing. So now you know who the competitor is. You have India and you have Bangladesh. And you can see these countries are very close by also. So what happens is most of the time the water resources which might be going through India is the one that is reaching Bangladesh, and still they managed to outgrow us when it came to their jute productions. Not jute production, the jute economy which is there. How? What happened to India? We have to know this from a mains perspective. So how are you guys planning to make the note for this, by the way? You will, I'm hoping you guys will be making notes. What I want you to do is put a heading called as jute. Okay, so some of the basic details related to jute I will be telling to you, that you need not to put over there in your notes. Write what are the problems. When I discuss what are the problems, write down the problems. Compare it with Bangladesh. That again you can write 3-4 points which I will be telling you. And the final solution is also there. That also there are 3-4 points. So in your 1-page note, write down the pointers that I am telling you. Okay, is that clear? Yes, perfect. Now see, if you look at the jute condition in India, the production of jute has declined by 13% in the last decade. So if I am telling to you in 2011-12, if the production was almost 2.03 million tons, here right now it has reduced to 1.77 million tons. So this is an actual drastic reduction which is there. Now coming into some basics about what jute is. Jute is a soft and relatively long fiber. It's a kind of crop which is there. So from that crop you extract the fiber of it. What is the fiber? So when you take some crops you will be seeing that kind of a thin kind of string like thing. This is the fiber. You take that fiber and you're making it into some kind of a thread. How many of you know what jute is? I'm just hoping everybody would have seen those sack at home and all, where you get your rice, you have your big shopper bag and all these things. In all of these things they use jute. Okay, so yeah, I believe, I mean most of you sacks and all these packaging materials are made from this jute. Jute is a crop that grows in hot and humid climates. Okay, humid means what? In relatively, when you look at the atmosphere, the moisture in the atmosphere would be high. The temperature that is needed for jute, very, very important. Why? Because UPSC, when it comes to a prelims perspective, asks questions from these details which are there. From the temperature perspective, jute needs somewhere between 24 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. Understand? So anything below that or above that will damage jute. 24 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. Rainfall, it requires 120 to 150 centimeter, meaning it requires some amount of rainfall. So now you know, look at all the areas where jute is grown. Apart from that, jute also needs, from the soil perspective, it needs a very clayey soil. Clay means what? The kind of soil when the water flows, it gets, when water is there, it gets all mixed up. You all must have seen how clay is, no? It's very sticky. Jute needs that kind of a soil. Now, so if you look at it, in India, where all are jute grown? Look at all the places. In India, if you look at the places, it's in West Bengal, Bihar and Assam, which are major areas where jute is being cultivated. Look at all of these areas. They have enough rainfall. They have enough, this temperature condition is also there. Their soil is very clayey. Now, let me ask you a question. Why is jute not there in South India? Any idea? I mean, look at the temperature, look at the rainfall. Why is jute not there in South India? You can think in the geographical lines and tell me. Yes. Lot of you have mentioned the right point. Soil. Jute needs clay soil. South India, if you look at Kerala and Tamil Nadu and all of these places, you see soil of a laterite kind. That is the first thing. Second thing is, the temperature requirement might be fine, but the rainfall requirement, if you look at the monsoon coming into all of these places, especially if you take Kerala, Karnataka and all of these places, it tends to have a much more higher degree of rainfall. So what happens is, maybe if the rainfall is a bit too much, the jute will get damaged. So first criteria, soil. Next criteria, your rainfall which is there. Okay. Now, if you look at the production of jute, production means what? How much jute has been taken and how much jute has been grown and how much we extract from there. If you look at the jute production, India is the largest producer of jute in the world, followed by Bangladesh and China. Now, we said we are reducing, but still till now Bangladesh has not overtaken us. We are reducing our production. Very soon Bangladesh will overtake us. But right now, if you look at the statistics, India is first, then you have Bangladesh second and China third. But the second statement itself will give you a clarity about what is happening to all the jute that we produce. India also happens to be the world's largest consumer of jute and jute products. Meaning what? All the jute that we are producing, we are only consuming. We are not sending it out and getting money from it. So if they are producing so much of jute as packaging material, the entire India itself is consuming all of it. So much so that we are one of the world's largest consumer of jute and jute products. So whatever is produced, we are consuming. What is there for export? Nothing is there for export. From the export only you will get some money, no? From the internal consumption, the money will be sitting inside itself. It will be moving from one hand to another. Export means you will have extra income coming in. That does not happen. It is here where you start seeing that when it comes to the export of jute products, Bangladesh is the global leader in the export of jute products. Bangladesh accounts for almost 75% of the global jute exports. And India, when it comes to it, India's share is just 7%. Look at the condition which is there. We are producing largest amount of jute. We are consuming largest amount of jute. But when it comes to export, we are exporting only 7%. And in here lies the major problem of our jute economy. We don't have anything to export and gain money. Now coming into the exact points of why we are declining. One of the major issues is when it comes to the issue with the jute mills. If you look at the jute mills in India, and I told you, you have states like your Assam, Bihar and your West Bengal and as major producers. But if you take the number of jute mills over here, what does a mill do? It is in the mill where you take all this jute and they extract the fiber from it. When they took the number, they found out only 8 to 10 jute mills were actually in a proper functioning manner. They were the ones who were actually gaining some kind of a profit. They were the ones which had some kind of a technological improvement over there. The other jute mills were in a very, very poor condition. Imagine this, for an entire big country like India, you have 8 to 10 jute mills which are working properly. So this is the first problem. Second problem, supply chain disruptions due to cyclones. Very recently, you must have seen that cyclone Amphan, AMPHA, and how you can pronounce it in whatever manner you want, Amphan, Amphan, whatever it is. Now, when these unexpected scenarios come, what happens? The crop is totally destroyed. When the crop is totally destroyed, how will you create the produce from it? It comes to a point where in the recent years, we have been even importing a little bit of jute from Bangladesh also. Imagine that. Whenever we are facing a crisis, rather than increasing our production capacity, what we are thinking is, okay, we will import something from Bangladesh. Imagine that you are importing from your main competitor itself. You are adding to their economy. These kind of things is what is pulling our jute economy down. Lack of systematic regulation for hoarding. Unfortunately, in India, there is no comprehensive law that says that, okay, jute, whenever it is being produced, you cannot put it into the market. Like, for example, what is hoarding? What is the idea of hoarding? Some shopkeepers or some mill owners, they will not give the produce out. They will keep it with them. So when there's a scarcity in the market, they will say, earlier maybe the jute, 1 ton of jute could be got for maybe 500 rupees. When there's a scarcity, they'll be like, okay, I have some ton of jute with me, but you will have to give me 1 ton, 1,000 rupees. And they will sell it for extra money. So this is not right? So again, in India, you don't have any laws or regulations that are stopping it. So again, it keeps on continuing. Lack of product diversification. Hear this term clearly, understand the term clearly over here. What is product diversification? Okay. See, when I say jute, what is the first product that comes to your mind? Bag, sack, bag, sack, bag, sack. A lot of bag and sack, bag and sack. Some of you are saying rope. This is the thing. We are seeing bag and sack and rope and all as the products of jute. But ideally, the fiber content of jute can be used to make your slippers, your sandals, your cloth, your saris, your kind of, hair equipment which is there. Your kind of, for example, some of these bathroom equipments which are there. All of these things can be made. Now, to understand that, okay, jute can be used to make all of these things is the idea called as product diversification. You understand the potential of a crop and you try diversifying it. You try, rather than just saying sack and bag or just creating kind of packaging materials, you try being innovative. You try making more and more products. Now, some time ago, if you look at it, people would not care for it. But right now you're saying, okay, jute cloths, when it is worn, it will keep you from, it is made in a very climate friendly manner. And all of these things, when you say, you can easily have a market for it. But India is not exploring it. Most of the jute that India extracts, we make bag, sack, rope. That is why most of us, we also say, these are the things that jute can be done. But on the other hand, Bangladesh is very smart over here. Bangladesh has tried innovating a lot. If you look at even European countries, like if you take up Italy and all that, you have products from Bangladesh in the form of your jute sandals, your jute hair bands, your jute equipments and all, even going to fashion oriented countries like that. Imagine the idea that they brought in. We have not still diversified our products. Then coming into export competitiveness. This is again a problem. How does your export get competitive? See, if your export has to get competitive, you have to tell the farmers that, see, we are going to go for outside market, so you guys have to produce it in a good manner. Now, if the farmer will be like, okay, we also want to produce it in a good manner, can you give us some subsidy for this? So then India will be like, okay, we'll give you subsidy, but with that subsidy, you try to increase your production. In India, what happens is the farmers keep asking for subsidy, but what is being given to them is a very meager amount, which means they are not incentivized to produce jute. They'll be like, fine, leave jute. I will go make some other produce which is having much more better subsidy. Because for them, that is like a support that the government gives, no? So here again, because of certain government measures, our exports are not very competitive. Why? Because our farmers are not even incentivized to produce jute. Now, What is Bangladesh doing that is so different? Why are they being on the top of their game? First thing is that final point that I said, subsidy. Bangladesh offers a 9 to 10 percentage export subsidy for food grade packing bags, which is much higher than India's 1.5 to 3 percentage subsidy for the same. So what happens is in Bangladesh, if you are making not your sack and everything, okay, if you're making food grade packing bags, food grade means the kind of packing bags that can be even used to package your perishable goods which are there. If you're making that and you're ready to export it out, Bangladesh gives almost 9 to 10 percentage export subsidy. So don't you think the farmers in Bangladesh will be running behind jute to make more and more jute, because they're like, that is a huge amount of export subsidy. So whatever, when they compare to other goods, this is much more profitable for them to export jute. That is the first thing. Second thing, diversification of products. Bangladesh has focused so much, and as I told you, they don't just have sack and bag and everything. They've gone from this packaging materials. They're like, okay, packaging materials there, but we can make clothes, we can make hat. They have gone all out and they've diversified their products, which means what? In the global market, when they see how all jute can be used, and only very few countries are producing it. You have China, you have Bangladesh, and you have India. So out of all these countries, Bangladesh is being very innovative. So what happens? A lot of exports happen from Bangladesh. High share in exports. If you look at it, Bangladesh is having almost, as I told you, 75% of its entire jute it gets into exports. Bangladesh, they don't use much for their daily consumption, which is there. Most of the jute that they produce goes for export. And this has added into their income from these products in a very high amount. On the other hand, 85% to 90% of India's jute is consumed locally. Now, do you realize there is a clear difference between India and Bangladesh when it comes to the jute economy? In that case, before I go into the next slide, I want to know from you guys, if you were there to make a policy about this, what all would be your policy to improve the jute production or to improve the jute export in the jute economy in India? Let me see all my future civil servants giving me all the ideas which are there. Okay, subsidies, a lot of you are going to give in subsidies. But then again, look at it, when subsidies are given a lot, don't you think it will affect our economy also? I'm just giving you a thought over there. Incentivize farmers, modernization of agriculture. I basically believe that jute mills which are there has to be much more improved. That is one thing that can be done. I'll increase the subsidy, I'll increase the diversification. A lot of you are saying, a lot of comments, awareness amongst farmers about this problem which is there. Jute mill, GI tag, that is a good one. I cannot read out your names because you are all on fire and you're putting your suggestions out there. So it's going on scrolling, that's why I cannot read out your names. But the GI tag idea was very, very good. Okay, special loans for this, CSIR to improve the jute production, different artifacts to be created, advertisements, next thing, local bodies for women and everything, AI, oh, artificial intelligence in jute production, crop insurance. Wow, and it's still coming on. Okay, you have convinced me that if you ever be part or if you are ever the head of the jute board, the jute of India is safe in all of your hands, because I think a lot of suggestions, some of the exemplary ones that have been there are the kind of things like the GI tag thing which is there, the MSME intervention which is there, the kind of e-commerce improvement. In fact, right now Amazon has actually started doing this also for your jute handicrafts and jute products and all. They have a separate marketplace where you can buy these things. These are all the very, very good things. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm very impressed with the responses. Keep up the pace like this. Now, so when I come to this, what is right now the government doing? You all are the future civil servants. The right now what the government is doing, the first thing that it said is, one of the things which put into place is Jute Packaging Materials Compulsory Use in Packing Commodities Act. In this act, they said that whatever rice and sugar that is being produced in the country has to be packaged in jute. This, they have made it a compulsory thing. So this was enacted to protect the jute sector from the plastic packaging segment. So normally your rice and your sugar and your wheat and all used to be packaged in plastic packaging. Now the government has said mandatorily, compulsorily, you should package it in the jute itself, so that the farmers also will be more incentivized to produce it. Next thing, jute is called as golden fiber because of all the what you say, the economic benefits it has, the kind of color that it has. Because of all these reasons, it's called as a golden fiber. In India, we have the white revolution, the green revolution and all that. We have a golden fiber revolution and a jute technology mission. The idea of the jute technology mission was to actually mechanize the jute mills which are there. But unfortunately, this jute technology mission is not up to the mark. So one suggestion that the government is right now doing is they are planning to revamp this jute technology mission and ensure that the production happens in a good, or the kind of mechanization in these mills also happen in a good manner. Then you have something called as jute smart. And when I saw this jute smart, no, for some reason I just felt like, okay, this could come in some varied form in the exam. It might not come as a very direct question, but what is jute smart? Jute smart is an e-government initiative launched in December 2016. What it tries to do is, see, half of the time we are not aware of what the kind of jute production is happening, how much is exported or anything. Using Jute Smart, which is actually the app which is there, you can get into it and you can check what amount of jute has been exported, what amount of jute has been produced. So this brings about a transparency in the mechanism. So even as public who are there or farmers who are there, you can raise a concern about these things. These are few of the things that the government is doing. But again, as we just discussed, and you have given such very, very brilliant ideas, there's a lot more that can be done so that the jute economy is brought back. Otherwise, what is going to happen is, in a span of time, the jute production of India, right now we are at least producing in a good manner, even the jute production will decline. When the jute production will decline, the amount of jute that we have for our consumption will decline. At that point, India will have to depend on these other countries to actually import this jute. This is what happened to us in the cases of pulses. India is one country which had a very good opportunity to produce its own pulses. We have the climate conditions for it, we have the soil for it. But what happened is, India did not bother, give so much of focus to it. In turn, we end up actually importing a lot of the pulses that we need. The dal, the urad dal, all these kind of things, we end up importing. Similar to oil seeds. See, this is something that, like a pattern we've done to a lot of our agriculture produce. Jute should not be onto that line again, because we have a clear advantage here. We are producing well, so we have to somehow curb the decline. Is this topic clear to all of you? Shawik has said something very innovative here. Let's try cultivating jute in the urban areas of these places which are there. I like how you've combined your first and second topics. Good one, Shawik, over there. Now coming into the poll question. Again, someone told me earlier, by shaking of the finger, I missed the question and all that. Be careful and write this answer, okay? Consider the following statements regarding jute industry in India. Cultivation of jute requires temperatures below 23 degrees Celsius with humidity above 75% all around the year. India is the largest exporter of jute in the world. The Jute Packaging Materials Compulsory Use in Packaging Commodities Act was enacted to protect the jute sector from the plastic packaging segment. Which of the following statements are correct? They're asking correct. Okay. So let me launch the poll. Just give me a moment. Okay. Start marking your answers. think properly and mark, guys. Kapil, unfortunately, I don't think there is an option like that, but then yeah. Pranil, what is your message? I'm trying to find your message. Yes, Pranil, tell me. Yes, I have come up with your answers which are there. Now, let me just see. 75% of you have marked the right answer, which is there. The others have somehow made it wrong. Which is the other option that you guys chose? Look at the question, guys. Cultivation of jute requires temperatures below 23 degrees Celsius. What? Jute is grown in mountains and hill stations and all. What? It's grown below 23 degrees Celsius means it is close to the temperatures which we have in our normal moderate temperatures which are there. So, when it comes over here, it's not below 23, it's 24 to 35 degrees Celsius which is there. If you've made that wrong, it is something that you could have used your common sense. So the first statement is wrong. India is the largest exporter of jute. See, if India was the largest exporter of jute, would we be even discussing this topic over here? No, because we would have got enough money. Our jute economy was very good at that point. But then no, India is not the largest exporter of jute. Bangladesh happens to be the largest exporter of jute. Almost 75% of the global jute export comes from Bangladesh. We have only 7%. Okay, so again, this is wrong. The last statement is correct. So again, the answer over here is 3 only. Okay, so that is the answer over here. Now coming into the question, India's jute economy is in a state of decline due to its failure to address inherent weaknesses in this sector. What is inherent weakness? Inherent weakness means the kind of weakness that is happening because of how the jute industry in India is formed. The jute industry in India is having jute mills which are not mechanized. The jute industry in India is not having proper subsidies. The jute industry in India is not having export competitiveness. All those 5-6 points are the weaknesses or the inherent weaknesses of this sector. You can say that, and you can say none of these things have been addressed in a proper manner. That is why we are declining. And all those wonderful innovative suggestions that you shared with me, you can put it as a way forward in this answer and write this. Now are you guys feeling how okay, now if I can think innovative, I can actually write this answer also? How many of you will try writing this answer? And now again, all of you will say, we'll try, yes ma'am, sure ma'am, and all that. But next time I'll ask and you will be like, sorry ma'am, we didn't do it. Anyway, okay, one day you all will realize what I was saying then. Coming to the third topic, facial recognition technology. Okay. How many of you have ever been to an airport or any of these scenarios and you've stood over there in front of that scanning machine and actually be like, okay, what if this thing does not scan me? What if they don't identify me? Have had that kind of a concern which is there. Yeah, a lot of us have felt this. So now, one very interesting thing about facial recognition we'll be discussing along with the current problem. Very recently, Australia has some of the top retail chains over there. What are retail chains? You have your supermarkets, like we have our More and Geomart and everything. Australia has some top retail chains like Kmart and so on. What happened is they have used intrusive face recognition technology. Now, to understand what intrusive face recognition technology is, first we have to understand what is this face recognition technology. Now, this is something I wanted to share it to you, share very clearly with you so that you have a clear picture in your mind. See, we think when they are looking at our face, what they are looking, we are looking at our face, looking all the features which are there, and they are comparing it with some card or some detail that they have, and they're saying, okay, fine, this is the same person. But if you look at it, what they are actually checking when they put you in front of a scanner is almost 80 different criteria. Can you believe that? Almost 80 different criteria can be checked to see if a person is matching with a photograph or a person is matching with another person and so on. What are the criteria? Look at all this picture over here. This man's, the distance between his two eyes, okay, that is being checked. The width of his nose, that is being checked. Width means, for example, your nose is like this, means how much is the width of it. The depth of the eye in the socket, how deep. For example, if you look at this, if this person's eye is a little bit more sunken, in the facial recognition technology they might flag it by saying like, okay, this might not be the same person. The shape of the cheekbones which are there, the length of the jawline is this part which is there. All these things which are there would be checked. Along with this, obviously we cannot discuss all the 80 ones which are there. The for example, from your two eyebrows, the distance between the two eyebrows which are there, the distance between the ends of the two eyes which are there, the width of the nose, the length of the nose, the length of the jawline, this is all what is being checked in seconds, and then proven that, okay, this is this person. So for example, if you are going to, if a police person needs to know some criteria or anything and somebody is giving some description, all these check things would be discussed. If you want to identify someone, all these features would be checked along with whatever your existing photo is there in your Aadhaar card or voter's ID or anywhere. Now, some of you might be thinking, my Aadhaar card picture is too ugly, nothing will be visible from there. But still, none of these features will change. The distance, the width of your nose is not going to get bigger and bigger as the year passes by, right? The width of your nose, the length of your jawline, these all remain similar. So these are what is being checked in a facial recognition technology. So facial recognition is basically a biometric technology that uses distinctive features of the face to identify and distinguish an individual. Those who have this thing on their phones, some of us have the face lock, right? Have you noticed at some points when you sit like this or you don't have proper light, it does not identify. It does not identify not because your face is not that, as pretty as the picture that you put over there. That is not the reason why it is not identifying. It's not able to capture these specific features which are there. That is why it is not identifying. Is this clear to all of you? See, somebody's asking me, what if I get fat? Guys, even if you get fat, your jawline is determined by the skull structure which is there inside. You getting fat will not improve, the facial skull of yours is not getting fat. You will have facial muscles. Maybe you will have a little bit more chubby over here. But your jawline and all will not change. That is fixed. That will get changed only if someone gives you a good punch and your entire face is dismantled at that point. Understand? So now coming into this point, so the benefits of facial recognition technology broadly we can understand. Facial recognition technology is used when it comes to identifying criminals. It can be used in all of your public spaces to identify things, to identify beneficiaries of certain programs. You can use this to get on an individual level, you're using all these facial recognition technology. One very prominent use, and this I had expected as a question last year. Now again, it is not asked last year, but then again for this year you can keep it in mind. There is actually a facial recognition technology that is used to crack child pornography. Okay, this is developed by some of the major technology giants like Microsoft. What they've done is, you have a lot of, because children, the images of children and the images of them being exploited are all out there on the public platform. What they try to do is they try to use facial recognition technology and flag certain people who are doing this. They also flag the child in question and try to somehow prevent the spread of the videos. This is something that is being done. So this kind of technology is being used in a lot of places. Okay, it has widespread application, but what is the problem? It has a lot of concerns. There are a lot of problems associated when it comes to your facial recognition technology, starting with the first thing, legislative lacunas. What is lacuna? Lacuna means gap. Again, the same story again. This is a technology that is being used by your policing people, be it the cyber policing, the normal policing which is there. In all of these places, people use this kind of a technology. But there is no specific laws or guidelines to regulate the use. No kind of law that says, okay, you capture a person's picture. After a point, if that person is proven not to be the criminal, that picture should not be there in the system. There is no kind of law that is strictly saying this. They're trying to even make a law which says that, see, you can keep the picture for almost 75 years. Imagine that. So you don't have, as a citizen of the country, my picture is already there in the Aadhaar card and the voter's card. At any given point, if somebody out there is there who could be similar to me or have similar features or something, have committed a crime, I am also at risk, because the entire government data is over there and there's no regulation to protect me. There is no regulation or law where I can go and say, see, I am wrongfully accused over here. So this is a huge legislative lacuna. Next thing is the threat to privacy. See, in the Puttaswamy judgment, when the Puttaswamy judgment was the judgment which gave that all of us have right to privacy. Okay, we all have a right to privacy. It's a very fundamental right of us, was given by the Puttaswamy judgment. Along with that, Puttaswamy judgment also said, and this privacy does not mean just the kind of privacy I will have at my home. Okay, it's not the privacy that, okay, sitting in my home, nobody is coming and disturbing me, this is my privacy. Even if you're in an outside space, you can have privacy. How so? Nobody can take your image and go and use it for facial recognition or anything. That kind of a thing was assured under the Puttaswamy judgment, but we have not had proper laws. So what again happens? A lot of places our faces are misused. Can anyone tell me any example where the facial recognition technology is actually misused? Any places? A lot of places. I tell you, you have certain Facebook algorithm which uses your face, your facial features, your photographs in a bad manner. I'll tell you that. We'll come to that topic very soon, or that problem very soon. You have the cases where people, if you want to wrongfully convict anyone, if there was a very prominent case and all which involves people who are having similar facial structures or anything, they might get killed. You will not know who got killed. Somebody might be even accused for that crime. So a lot of places our faces are wrongfully used. So what happens is, this is a threat to privacy, but we don't have anything to prevent it. Similar to that, the data vulnerabilities. All our Aadhaar data, which has our face, our fingerprint, our eyes, everything is there. But what is not there? There is no protection, proper protection for it. This is one of the reasons why you see a lot of problems can happen if this data gets leaked out. Okay, now coming to the police state, it might lead to an over policing problem. See, once if the police has all our pictures with them, they can say, so someone is coming and saying, one person had tried doing this. Okay, that person had a long hair, was wearing specs, had a face like this. So now they will just have all our data with us. So we all by default become, even without us knowing, we become some kind who fit into that category, become some kind of an accused over here. Understand? So, and the police would come to each of us and ask, have you done this? Have you done this? So this again is an infringement of our privacy, and this might lead to over policing also. Understand? Because they have the data, the power is with them to actually maybe even use it against us. We do not know this. Coming to mass surveillance. Mass surveillance brings into the idea as to what happened in Australia at this point. In Australia, what they have done is, these supermarkets, without the people knowing, they have captured their images in CCTV. Okay, so CCTV is all around in the supermarket. They've captured their images. What they've done is, they have froze the images which are there and kept a database of the people who are constantly coming to the supermarket. Why do they need this information? They are saying they need this information to identify the people who are shoplifting. But to identify the people who are shoplifting, you are taking the faces or the images of the faces of so many people. What is the point about it? What else will you be misusing? So maybe just a possibility over here, they're taking the pictures, they're seeing that okay, a lot of our consumers come from are from a certain community which is over there. Maybe what they will use is, maybe for them we can have this kind of a produce which is very attractive for them. So they can use it for marketing purposes. They can use it to harass people also. If they don't want some community people coming into their stores, they can clearly say, these many people are coming at these many times, so we will have some kind of a barrier for that. This kind of an information can be used in a lot of mismanaged ways. And again, coming to the point of mass surveillance. Mass surveillance means constantly imagine. Now, right now, CCTV image is there when you are going to a building or a government office. Now, imagine a situation, just imagine for a moment, you're getting out on the street, on the traffic lights or whatever poles there are CCTV images. Every other point that you're going through, there is CCTVs that are capturing your image. How comfortable will you feel living in that kind of a situation? You're going out, you're trying to do something, you know that somebody is going on watching you. This kind of a mass surveillance means someone is going on looking over you. Your parents have surveillance over you. They will keep on checking what you're doing, what are you going, what time are you coming back, what are you doing at this point, all of these things. Surveillance means checking, constantly checking for whatever is being happening. Okay, so we won't be comfortable. We are not even comfortable if our own parents come and ask us, why were you late today? How, imagine us walking around and our pictures being taken by this media and we do not even know what it is being used for. Next, coming into technological bias. This is a very important concept, and this is going to be a very important problem also in the coming ages. What is technological bias? See, we might think our artificial intelligence, our Facebook algorithms are okay, these are just technology. But what happens in these technology is, these technologies are created by whom? It's created by humans. Humans have some kind of a bias. Bias means some kind of a prejudice. So what happens is, in certain areas it was observed that when technologies were created for facial recognition, what they would do is, for example, someone's skin color. If someone is seen like a dark person or a black person when it comes to America, what they would do is, they would at then and there profile him into another category, like he's like a threat or something. Understand? So the technology inherently has a bias. So normally, for example, how many of you have noticed this? This is very important to understand this technological bias. You must have seen when you are taking a bike and going out, you have police stopping vehicles. Okay. Now you'll see that at times, if you are very well dressed, your hair is all put in a very good manner, and you are all tip top, the likelihood that the police will stop you and the police will be rude to you is quite less. You might be a criminal mastermind, but then the police will be like, he looks like a decent guy. Okay, let him go. Then on behind you, you are seeing this guy who's coming like in a very freak manner. He's having like colored hair. He's having all these studs on him. And then the police will like, you stop. You for sure will have something on you. I have to check you. You understand? This is a bias that normal humans have. You see certain features and you assume certain things. Now the technology is created by these humans only. So what happens is, when the technology is created by humans, they cannot, this inherent means the original biases that they have, they will have that in their mind. So if a technology is getting created in America, by default they'll be like, okay, fine, maybe the person who's having these kind of features, if he's dark or black, he might be a criminal in the future. So what happens? The technology clearly profiles these people away. Understand? Don't you think this is actually a very dangerous phenomena? I was telling to some of my students as to how this kind of a thing, what happened is, in America, they devised a technology like this to actually check out, who was good for a job, who's bad for a job. And this technology was given the pictures of the parliamentarians of America, like, the Senate members and everything. They profiled them as criminals. These are the people who are there in the American Parliament. When the technology, it was given these pictures, they profile them as some kind of a, criminals which are there. The same technology, what happens is, according to them, all Asian people are similar to them. So they don't have differences like, okay, this is an Indian person, that is a Chinese person, this is a Vietnamese person. They don't have that differentiation. So if they see a person with common features, like maybe you have a fair color, you have some eye shape which is there, they will categorize them as Asian. They will categorize them, they will not look any other differentiation which is there, and they will profile them based on that. So the technology that we have is biased on these manners, and they're using facial recognition technology as a major tool in these technologies also. How many of you found that thing to be very scary? Whenever I read things about that, I find it to be extremely scary because of the fact that tomorrow you, even without you not even thinking about the consequences, you might be in some box, you might be in some category which somebody has put you into. Exactly. This is actually discriminating, and it is actually scary too. Finally, coming to the questionable accuracy, and this is the most funny thing over here. Sometimes it can yield false positives. Some of you were mentioning about identical twins and everything. What happens is, under this, the facial recognition system need not always recognize the correct person, which means it will lead to a false positive. So if you have two similar persons, you cannot make facial recognition technology to be the final proof that says, he's the one who murdered that person. Imagine the case if you have identical twins. Then in that case, how will you, their structures would be similar. All of these features would be very, very similar. So in that case, you will have to dig deeper into it. So in some cases, it leads to even false positives. So on the whole, your facial recognition technology has the potential to even yield these kind of things. So it has to be used in a very curtailed manner. It has to have proper regulations and laws related to it. Is this topic clear to all of you? I think it was a very interesting topic. What do you think, guys? False positive means, see, okay, somebody is saying, I'll take that example. Me, if I have a sister, both of us are looking somewhat very similar. Okay. Now imagine this. My phone should actually identify me, no? So now what happens is, when I'm putting it, or when she's putting it, if my sister is taking and putting it, because some of the features are correct, it might identify and the phone might get opened. That's a false positive. I am the owner of the phone. My face should open the phone, but her face has opened the phone. It is a false positive. It has come out to work out. The phone has been opened, which is a good thing, but it's a false positive which is there. Okay? Yes, clear, and it is all there. So now let's go into the question, which consider the following statements regarding facial recognition technology, which was recently in news. The technology can help law enforcement agencies to identify criminals and find missing people. The unchecked use of this technology might pose a huge threat to the right of privacy guaranteed under Article 21 of Indian Constitution. But there is a twist over here. Which of the statements given above is or are incorrect? Don't jump and put your answer over there. Read it properly. Let me just start the poll. Okay, start marking. It's incorrect statement that they're asking. So be careful. Terim, that is why in the case of the children that are in that age, be it for the passport or anything, they don't use facial recognition which is there, because it's not in a fully formed condition. Mostly facial recognition is used as a technique for people above 18 years of age. When you've reached an adulthood, then only they use it. Okay. Unchecked means the kind of thing that you're not going and checking, like, it's not actually regulated. Vaishnavi, the WTO being dragged into. Okay, 1 minute. Your answers have come about. Just remind me to answer. See, any of those questions which are. I'll just 1 minute. First, let me show the leaderboard to all of you. Then we'll discuss the rest of the things. Okay, happy. All of you who are seeing the leaderboard which is there. Okay. I'm not reading out any names. I don't want to have any conflict or confrontation with those who are like, ma'am, my name is not there, so I'm not reading out the names there. Now, again, what I was saying is those who have any kind of doubt, okay, at the end, when I'm open for questions, no, if it is still persisting after all these things, and after even if you ask the SME also, and then also it's not clear, then you put it out there. Okay, so in between, when I'm seeing it, I might not be able to process it very fast and give you the answer then and there. So we'll save it for the end. Okay, so I saw one question by Deepshika and I saw a question by Vaishnavi also. Both of you at the end, I will try. If I forget it, just remind me. Okay, now coming into the statement over here, guys, incorrect statement. Which is the incorrect statement? Both of them are correct, right? This technology can help law enforcement. This is correct. The unchecked use is actually something that will be a threat under the right to privacy. This is also correct. So which statement is incorrect? None of it is incorrect. Neither one nor two. The answer is D. Those who made it wrong and got confused with that incorrect thing, remember, UPSC will play this trick on you. So I hope this is a eye opener for all of you to think about the incorrect statements. Coming to this question, the unchecked use of facial recognition technology may turn us into an Orwellian state, given the existing legislative lacunae and the lack of other preventive measures. What is this Orwellian state? Anybody who has what the idea of an Orwellian state is? Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. Kuldeep is asking me back, what is Orwellian? I'm asking if any one of you know what is Orwellian. Okay. Some of you have given me a very smart answer, which is the idea given by Orwell. That I can understand from Orwellian state. Orwellian state means, see, in the books of George Orwell, there is an author like that. It is being talked about the kind of state or the kind of a situation where every move of yours is monitored. Okay, so I think I must have told you there is this very prominent book which he had written. It's called as 1984. In that book, what is being discussed is the idea that you have constantly, the situation where I told you earlier. Now, the idea I told you earlier is you are walking out of your home and somebody is actually like there are all cameras upon you. Even if you're going to the shop, you're picking something, there are cameras on you. You're getting out of the shop, there are cameras on you. Now imagine in your home there are cameras on you. Home is the place where you feel the most safe, right? So you are switching on the TV which is there. The TV is actually taking images of you. You're taking your phone, the phone is taking images of you. Now why are they all taking images of you? Is it because you're like that beautiful? No, it is being used to control you. So what happens is, for constantly, now in the Orwellian state there is a rule that you should not consume liquor. Okay, so in that state, if that issue is there, so what happens is, if you're constantly being monitored, don't you think who are there in the power will understand? Yeah, see, they are drinking, they're consuming alcohol, call them in, put them into jail. Which means you cannot, or you will not have a situation where any of your rights are actually practiced. So you are writing something, you are not happy with something that the government is doing. You're writing an article. Right above you, there is a camera that is zooming on what you are writing. Okay, and they're taking the picture, and tomorrow you are in jail. Imagine all this. This is a very scary idea, and this is the idea that is given in something called as an Orwellian state. Complete surveillance over all the time which is there. So their question is, the unchecked use of facial recognition technology may turn us into an Orwellian state. They're not saying we are an Orwellian state. They're saying if you are having facial recognition technology which is so blatantly misused, then we will turn into an Orwellian state where every action of ours is monitored. So they're asking us to critically examine it. So you have to say, yes, there are existing lacunae, there are existing gaps and everything. And you have to say the certain provisions, like you have to ensure that the data, whatever is collected, is assured. The consent is taken from the individual side. It is stored in a safe place. All these different suggestions you can give to actually check the movement of ours into being an Orwellian state. Is the idea of Orwellian state clear to all of you? Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Now let's go into the next topic, making Indian Ocean plastic free. Okay. Now, why is this topic important? Now, we might think, see, whenever we talk about plastic pollution and all, we are like, okay, there is the Pacific pollution. In the Pacific Ocean, there's a really bad pollution happening. We always compare all of these other places. But very recently, it came into the light that our Indian Ocean is one of the most polluted oceans in the entire world. When it comes to the pollution which is there, we stand actually at second when it comes to the plastic pollution which is there. What is plastic pollution? Plastic pollution means the indiscriminate throwing of, indiscriminate means you're not even bothered. You throw the plastic, you're not you're using non-degradable things which are there, and it is put into the system, which is put into the environment. From the environment, it gets carried into oceans, it gets carried into the land bodies which are there. Now, when I'm saying plastic, don't just think your plastic bag, plastic covers and all. You have certain things called as microplastics. Microplastics, again, I've told you before also, it's these small kind of components that you see in your face scrubs, in your makeup equipment and all that. How many of you have seen microplastics? Okay, that question that you all want to see, I'll show it again. Don't worry. Okay. Yes, you've seen it in toothpaste, you've seen it in face wash and all of these things. Now the problem over here is, very recently, in the United Nations conference of 2022, which was held in Lisbon, Portugal, we have reached to a conclusion. Now India has taken this step forward. India has said we are going to actively do something to curb the plastic pollution in the oceans. And India has said India is going to take up a massive coastal cleanup drive that will cover 75 beaches across the country. Okay, so all along the coastline which is there, we are planning to clean it up. And we proclaimed this at the United Nations conference of 2022. By virtue of this, or because of this conference is important. This new scheme that India has said, that is also important. And this is what we'll be discussing. But before we discuss that, have a look at this. Look at all the oceans which are there, and the oceans are ranked by the estimated surface plastic which is there. You have the North Pacific area which has almost 2 trillion pieces. India is not so back. Indian Ocean is 1.3 trillion. See, when I'm saying Indian Ocean, don't assume it's not just because of India that is happening. You have other countries also, but India being a very large country out there, we have a lot to do with the plastic pollution over there. If you look at the ranking, it's North Pacific, Indian Ocean, then you have your North Atlantic, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is a very important information. This is something that a lot of us do not know. We think we are doing okay, but the condition is much more severe than we had expected. Now, some of the facts that I want you to get it clear in your mind when it comes to this plastic pollution is, then they could ask these as single statement questions. One major thing is, in India, it is the single use plastics that contribute to over 50% of marine litter. First, let's look at all the words. What is single use plastic? There are these certain plastic products which are there. You will use it only, for example, the straw which is there. Okay, the straw. This is something that it's a single use. After you use it, you throw it. You are not recycling it. You are not repurposing it in any manner. This is why there is this new trend to use steel straws which are there. How many of you have seen these steel straws? Yes. Now coming into marine litter. Litter means the garbage, or the, what you say, the waste that is thrown into the ocean. Marine is water bodies and ocean and everything. Litter is the garbage. Single use plastics contribute to over 50% of the marine litter. That is the first important thing. Second thing is, the maximum litter accumulation occurs on the back shore than in the intertidal zone. Okay. Now, don't ask the question. I'm going to give you the explanation itself. So, for example, let's see. This is your shoreline. You have ocean over here. Okay. Now, when there is an ocean, for the ocean there is a high tide and a low tide. I'm not talking about the waves. Sometimes you would have seen, no, when you go to the ocean would be really far away. Sometimes when you're looking at it, the ocean would be a little bit more to you. Ocean or sea or whatever it is, be a little bit near to you. So you have a high tide and you have a low tide. Low tide is when it's far away. So now if you look at it, between that low tide and high tide area which is there, this is the area where constantly water is moving, water is depositing things. You all must have seen this, no? When you go to the beach and everything, at times what is going to happen, you walk on the shores, you collect all this, you see all this garbage over there. Where do you see all the garbage? You think you are seeing all the garbage which is there at that one point, which is between that low tide and high tide area. That is called as the intertidal zone. Why? Because, for example, when the high tide comes, a lot of the things will be deposited over there, and then after some time when the high tide goes back, some of it will get carried. So in that intermittent zone which is there, the likelihood of that being deposited is there. So we think it is in the intertidal zone. Intertidal zone is what? Between your high tide area and your low tide area. This area is where the most garbage would be, is what we think. But in reality, the most garbage gets accumulated at the back shore. Back shore means at times what happens is, mostly because you have these very small kind of plastics which are there, these get flown into the land when the high tide comes, and it gets deposited onto the shore. Okay, next time you go to a beach, observe this, and when you go to a very polluted beach, you can see it in a very clear manner. Okay, when you go to a very polluted beach, you will see that the ocean is there, some plastic waste and all will be here, but more amount of plastic waste and everything will be a little bit far away from the oceans. How many of you have seen this? If you've seen this, you know that very well. Yeah, if you go to any of the beaches in Mumbai and all that, you can see this in a very clear manner. What happens is, let's picturize this. Okay, there is an ocean over here. Okay, now what happens is, in the case of the ocean, what is happening is, you have your tidal zones over here. The waste there, you will have some amount of deposition, but when the water gets so much inside at the high tide, what happens is, all that waste that the high tide gets carried over, it gets deposited into the shore over here. Understand? And from there, what happens? All your big plastic waste, your big, for example, some shoe and some kind of all these plastic covers that you've thrown, the chip packets and all, that and all you will see over here. Smaller things you might see in that intertidal zone. Is this clear to all of you? Yes, yes, yes. So now here you can see, so now this is an observation that they could also ask for UPSC, the maximum litter accumulation, that means the most amount of garbage occurs on the back shore than in the intertidal zone. It is not occurring in that area where there is high tide and low tide. It is occurring after that high tide comes and puts all the waste. It is occurring in the back shore. What is the shore? The land part of the sea which is there, sea or the ocean. Okay. Now coming into urban beaches were observed to have higher accumulation rates than rural beaches. That is quite logical, no? Urban beaches, what are higher accumulation rates? The amount of plastic that gets deposited into the beaches which are there. You see that more in the urban beaches than in the rural beaches. Why? Why do you think you see that more in the urban beaches? Again, in the urban areas, you have more amount of plastic being created. That is why you see more amount of plastic pollution in the urban beaches. Okay. Now coming into the last point, and hear me out very carefully over here. An increase in the abundance of microplastics was observed along India's east coast during monsoon. Very important fact. In the east coast of India, during monsoon season, they're saying there is an abundance of microplastics. Microplastics means all these small different kind of micro level plastics which are there. 1 mm less plastics are called as microplastics which are there. It is there in the east coast of India in the monsoon season. Can anybody give me a logical reason as to why this is happening. Oh, you've already written the answer even without me asking. Terry has said the delta, Peter has said the river. There's a lot of you who are touching on to the major facts. Swapnil has mentioned rivers are draining fast. All of these reasons. Why? In the first place, in the time of monsoons, most of the rivers or most of the areas get rainfall. And when they get rainfall, what happens is whatever plastic gets into all of our land gets thrown into the rivers. Okay, and you also know the eastern side of India is the one which has more rivers draining into the coast which is there. This is why in comparison, it's not said in the western coast there is no pollution or anything, but in comparison on the eastern side, because you have a higher number of rivers, you have delta formation, you have the rainfall also taking in all the waste over there, you see higher amount of microplastics over there. Clear? Is this point clear to all of you? Yes, higher number of rivers are draining into the east coast which is there. Now coming on to the impact of plastic pollution. Here I want you to be careful. Some of the terms that we are going to discuss are going to be somewhat important. Look at the terms. What are the different impacts of plastic pollution? First impact of plastic pollution will be on the marine life itself, which is where the kind of animals which are there in the animals, plants, everything which is there in the ocean. It will cause entanglement. What is entanglement? You would have seen these images, no? The plastic gets stuck into the throat of the animals. It will get stuck into the beak of these birds and everything. So what happens is this plastic, it gets entangled into their structures or their bodily structures which is there. And unlike us, it's not like they can just shrug it off and go. So they remain in that manner, and this is called as entanglement. Most of the times when they get entangled, it can put their lives in danger, because they will go and get stuck somewhere. The plastic will go and get hooked somewhere. So what happens is they can get, or they can reach to a death like scenario because of entanglement. Next thing is ingestion. Ingestion means they consume the plastic. Okay, they don't know if it's plastic or food or anything. So along with the food which is there, if you have the plastic bits, they eat that. Again, it gets stuck into their gut, and that also leads to them having some kind of a, what you say, drawback and some kind of a death like that also. Smothering. What is smothering? Okay, smothering. Have you seen these situations where people take a pillow and you cover your face and you start gasping for oxygen? Okay, so smothering basically means that you start suffocating, you don't get enough air to breathe in some manner. What happens in the case of plastic pollution is, this plastic pollution which is happening, it goes into all these oceans which are there. It tries to entangle and it goes and gets into all these areas, like for example the soil gets deposited in all these manners. When it gets deposited over there, the resources, for example the minerals or anything which should have been coming from there, it gets stopped. For example, imagine this, you have soil over there, the plastic is getting deposited over there. Whatever should be happening to the soil underneath is now being covered by the plastic. At this point, what happens? Again, the plants which are growing over there do not get enough or proper nutrients. Because the plants don't get enough nutrients, the animals that depend on the plants also do not get enough nutrients. What is the occurrence of a plant over there? If you have a plant in the ocean, they are the ones that will be taking in oxygen, and they'll be doing this photosynthesis and everything, right? So what happens? Again, your animals are getting affected. And on the whole, if you look at the oxygen levels of oceans which are affected by plastic pollution, you will see there is very less oxygen. Or if you look at the depths over there, comparatively, oxygen levels are lower. Understand? So this is called as smothering. Smothering means you're not getting enough of oxygen, you're not getting enough of nutrients, and the life will go away, or the death will happen because of these factors. Is the word smothering clear to all of you? Ingestion means eating, it consumes it. Entanglement means it gets tangled. Tangle means what? For example, if I'm having some kind of a thread or something with me, a cotton thread, if I'm taking it all over, what will happen? I will get tangled in it, right? Similar, there you have your plastics. That is for the marine life. Okay, smothering, I guess a lot of you want to understand smothering in a deeper manner. Let's put it like this. Let's see the ocean bottoms. You have plants growing of different kinds of plants. You have your phytoplanktons which are there. You have certain organisms which are actually, for example, if you have your small microorganisms which are there, these organisms also try to somehow sustain the ocean life. So one of the various, now plastic pollution can affect in a lot of manners. Okay, one thing is, if you have all these major amount of plastics, like the big amount of plastics coming in, they go and get deposited on the ocean floor. When they go and get deposited on the ocean floor, ideally what happens is, there's a lot of nutrients that get captured in the soil that gets into the ocean also. The plants also try getting that nutrients from this place. But what happens is, when these nutrients are not getting dissolved, and some of these plants depend on the nutrients that are dissolved also, when these plastic is covering them, these nutrients do not get actively dissolved into the ocean. When the nutrients are not actively dissolved into the ocean, certain things like your phytoplanktons, certain organisms which are dependent on it, they start dying out. When they start dying out, even those organisms like your plants which are dependent on it, they also start dying out. Based on these plants, you will have bigger organisms and they will also start perishing. This is one way. This is one way if you have large amount of plastics. If you have microplastics, the situation is even more worse. Why? Because in the case of microplastics, these plastic particles, they go and get stuck in the respiratory tract, in the pores of the plant. Each plant has all these pores and everything, right? So what happens is, it goes stuck over there. The plant is not actively able to take in oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. Its respiration activity is not happening. Because its respiration activity is not happening, the amount of oxygen that is dissolved into the this entire, what you say, entire ocean, that is also declining. On the whole, the organisms in the ocean suffer a decline in the oxygen content which is there. Understand? So not only oxygen content, the nutrient content also declines. So on the whole, anything that sustained their life started declining, and this started taking the life out. Smothering basically for humans would be you trying to get suffocated and you are not getting oxygen, because oxygen is primary concern for us. For them, oxygen, nutrients, all of these are concerns, and somehow that is getting prevented or that is not getting available to them. This is called as smothering. Is this clear to all of you at least now? Yes, I have taken that suggestion into place, but the thing is that there is some technical issue, that is why this is happening. But anyway, I'll try writing it in a little bit more clearer manner. Okay? Yes. Okay. Now coming into human beings. In the case of human beings, we all know plastic is considered to be a huge carcinogen genic substance. I'm trying, so I know if my handwriting is not getting clear, there is some, I'm not able to actually, there's some technical glitch that is happening. That is why the handwriting is coming out like that. So very sorry for that, guys. But I'll just read out if you are finding it difficult to read. I've written carcinogenic. Carcinogenic means cancer causing. Plastic is created from certain components which are having a huge amount of, what you say, if we consume it, if we have somehow taken the fumes of it, what happens is that this affects even the genetic material that is there inside our body, leading us to have certain diseases like cancer. Understand? So these kind of toxic contaminants are there. Microplastics, what happens is, again, think about this. Anything that is affecting the marine life will affect the humans also. You are having the fish which has consumed all the microplastic which is there, and you are eating it, and after some time in your body also those microplastics will come. right? So every other thing which is affecting the marine life, the same kind of impact in the form of contaminants, in the form of chemicals and all, will affect humans also. So plastic pollution is actually a huge amount of, or it's a very serious issue that needs to be curbed. Is this clear? Okay, let me just try this. Let me, so one of you have given me a suggestion, so let me just try if that will work. Okay. Now coming into the conservation measures, and here is the part where this is going to be important. So some of the conservation measures is high ambition coalition for nature and people. So India is a very active part of this organization which is there. Okay, is the handwriting a little bit more clear right now, guys? I mean, I know it's not the most beautiful handwriting ever, but then is it clear at least? Yes, it's better. Thank you. So now coming into the first one, High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. This is an international grouping which is there. It is basically to promote an international agreement to protect at least 30% of the world's land and ocean by 2030. Okay, so we are actually combining. So India is a very active part of this high ambition coalition which is there, and we are actively being a part of. And our idea is 30% of the entire world's land and ocean should be free from plastic pollution which is there. And we are a active part. Several NGOs from India are also an active part of this. So this is something that we are doing over there. First thing. Second thing is ban on single-use plastics. Very recently, I think I only have discussed this with you in one of our weekly current affairs, where we have tried banning the single-use plastics. Once again, we are putting all the bans into place to ensure that instead of single-use plastics, you use all the other kinds of materials which is there. So again, in this context, you can connect it to that jute economy that I taught you, where instead of these single-use plastics and everything, you can have some kind of a substitute in the form of jute. Then coming into this new thing which we have to discuss, Swachh Sagar, Surakshit Sagar, meaning clean ocean, safe ocean. This is the translation for it. Okay, this is what we have actually adhered to when it came to the recent conference which is there. So in the recent United Nations Ocean Conference, we promised we are going to clean up all the beach, 75 beach area. The scheme by which we are going to do that in India is called as the Swachh Sagar Surakshit Sagar scheme. Okay, so now we know very well that in this scheme, what are we planning to do? So if they give you as a question, what is the idea? In this scheme, what we are going to do is we are going to go to the different beaches which are there, and in the different beaches, we are going to clean up all the plastic waste which is there. So Swachh Sagar, by virtue of the fact that it's a clean ocean area which is there, and in turn, it will be a safe ocean. Coming last to that final United Nations conference, see, one of the major ideas that you have to understand is India is an active part of all these environment discussions, because India wants to portray itself as the global leader when it comes to environmental protection. So some basic facts about the United Nations conference of 2022. The United Nations conference was co-hosted. Co-hosted means you have two countries together conducting the meeting. Two countries were Kenya and Portugal. Okay, so Kenya, whatever you want to say. So Kenya and your Portugal have come together and co-hosted the meeting. They have seen it as a matter of how all your different developing countries and developed countries can be brought together. Why you want both of them? See, Indian Ocean might be the second most polluted, but what is the most polluted? The most polluted is in that Pacific Ocean area which is there, right? So you have your developed countries and your developing countries also to come together and find different solution for the ocean's problems, and that is why the United Nations conference was there. India is an active member of the conference, and we have taken an oath to protect all the beaches and oceans in the coming years. Is the topic clear to all of you? Yes, yes, yes. Now coming, I just wanted to share this with you. See, this area which is there, is called as a garbage or global garbage patch. Okay, I need to write it down. 1 minute. Global garbage patch. What is patch? Patch means an area where all most of the plastic waste gets accumulated, and in this case the most amount of plastic gets accumulated in this one particular, these are all the common areas which are there, but in this one particular area which is in the Pacific Ocean region, around this area which is there, you see a lot of accumulation which is there. So whenever they say global garbage patch, associated with the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so this is just an additional information over there. Now coming into the poll question for this topic, with reference to the United Nations conference which was there, consider the following statements. It was co-hosted by the governments of Kenya and Portugal. It was launched as a unique opportunity to boost collective efforts and find science-based solutions to effectively address the ocean's challenges. India didn't participate in the conference due to diverging views over plastic pollution. Which of the following statements given above is correct? Question is correct. Okay, so let me just launch the poll. I think it's a very simple question. Please don't go wrong in this question, guys. Okay, mark your answers now. Yes, good job. But I'm going to give you, this was actually a simple question, but then again, good job, guys. 86% of you have marked the right answer, which is there. Now, again, I'll show the leaderboard at the end of that last topic, which is there. The last topic is quite interesting. So after that, we'll look at the leaderboard. Co-hosted by governments, yes, that is correct. Launched as a unique opportunity to boost collective efforts, which are there, that is also correct. India didn't participate in the conference. No, why would India not participate in a conference that is actually talking a lot about marine pollution, plastic pollution and all, when India happens to be one of those countries which is actually, or Indian Ocean region happens to be one of those areas which has a huge amount of plastic pollution. So this is a wrong statement. The answer to this question is 1 and 2 only. So I hope you all made that correct. Now, the question for this is, discuss the impacts of plastic pollution in the Indian Ocean and mention some of the steps in achieving a plastic-free marine ecosystem. So again, some of the steps when they're asking, you can again, as creative as we got for the jute economy, you are free to think about and bring in your innovative solutions also. Always remember, guys, UPSC awards those students who think a little bit out of the box. You cannot say like, okay, I will ban full plastic and all that. That will not be the complete idea. But if you come up with innovative solutions, every time it gets awarded or they give you some extra brownie points for that observation or the suggestion you have given. Now coming to the last topic of the day, INS Vikrant. Now, very recently, the Indian Navy took the delivery of the Indigenous Aircraft Carrier, IAC. IAC is what? Indigenous Aircraft Carrier. It is the nation's first indigenously built aircraft carrier from its certain manufacturer which was there, which is your Cochin shipyard. We'll be discussing about it in detail. Now, what is took the delivery means? See, what happens is when something is getting constructed in the shipyard, or for example, in this case, it gets constructed in the shipyard. After that, it will be transferred to the Navy. The Navy will be running it for some time, the testing it and all, and then it is called as commissioning it into the Navy. Once the Navy has been proven that, okay, this is working well, they will commission it into the Navy, which is there. Now, what is this thing that we are talking about? Aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers, when you hear, don't think it is a plane which is there, something like that. What is it? Aircraft carriers. These are large ships that can carry military aircraft. It will look like it will be this is long kind of a ship which is there. It is a long flat surface which is there, and on this you will have areas where the aircrafts are stored. The aircrafts, it will have like a runway sort of a thing, and the aircraft will be launched from that manner if you want to attack an enemy at the sea. So, an aircraft carrier is actually a very large ship which can carry several military aircrafts. This is the first thing you need to know. And at present, if you look at it, India might have created its first indigenously built. Indigenously means what? We have built it all by ourselves. But if you look all around the world, you have USA, which has almost 11 operational aircraft carriers. UK has almost 2. China has 2. Russia has 2. All of these different countries have their own aircraft carriers. Okay, so they have already built their own. Now coming into, why is this INS Vikrant, or is this the first time that we've had an aircraft carrier which is there? See, think about this. India is a developing country. For a lot of our defense technology, be it the weapons and all, we are importing from outside. But very in the last few years, if you look, there is this idea of make in India. Every other thing, even if it's a defense technology, we should be able to make it in our own country. So here you can see that even before, we had 2 aircraft carriers which were there. It was called as the INS Vikrant and INS Virat. Now you must be wondering, hey, we were just talking about INS Vikrant, right? But this is the original, the OG, okay, the OG INS Vikrant which was there. The INS Vikrant which was earlier there was, this was something that we had acquired from British people. Okay, so this was a British built ship, both INS Vikrant and INS Virat. And when I'm saying British acquired ship, we used to be in such a situation where these ships would be run in Britain for a long time under, because these are Britain made ships. And once Britain feels like, okay, now it is not so much useful and all, Britain will decommission it. Decommission means it will be thrown out of the Navy which is there. They will not be using it anymore. At that point, they gave it to India. This is how we used to have our ships taken in, or we used to get all these aircraft carriers which are there. This is where India realized that enough with this. We don't want to get their leftovers which are there. So we need to start building our own. And very recently what happened is, this previous INS Vikrant and Virat which we got from the British, we were using it for some time and we said we are also decommissioning it. So right now, you don't have this original INS Vikrant and Virat. This is why this time when we created a new aircraft carrier, we were like, okay, let's name it with the INS Vikrant itself. So this current affair that we are discussing is actually the second INS Vikrant which is there. The first one which was there was decommissioned. Okay, get this clear, because these are all things you will be like, hey, that is also Vikrant, this is also Vikrant. So get that clear. Then you have another ship also in a place right now. It's called as INS Vikramaditya. And INS Vikramaditya is again a flagship. Flagship means a very important, or like the face of the Indian Navy which is there. But this is not a completely indigenous. Not completely indigenous. Now, when I'm saying it's not completely indigenous, just some of the technologies we've taken the help from Russia and so on. But when it comes to the new INS Vikrant, it is a completely indigenous aircraft carrier. Is this topic till here clear to all of you? Yeah, we can call it 2.0 and all, but don't write it in your answer 2.0. You just understand it as 2.0. So now coming to this new INS Vikrant, which is there. INS Vikrant is designed by the Indian Navy's Directorate of Naval Design. There is a separate body which actually gets into the design of the ships and builds the ships accordingly. So the design was from the Directorate of Naval Design, and it was built at the Cochin Shipyard Limited, which was there. Okay, and very recently we put it into, or we have given it to, after the Cochin Shipyard has constructed it, they have given it to the Indian Navy. Now the Indian Navy will run it around for some time, and then on one day you will come across a current affair which says INS Vikrant newly commissioned into Indian Navy. Then you will understand, okay, so the trial period is over, now it has been commissioned. Now in this INS Vikrant, there is a very important feature which we have to discuss. It features something called as stow bar technology. What is stow bar? Short takeoff but arrested recovery. Stow bar technology. Can you already see the potential of a UPSC question over there? They could very clearly ask you stow bar technology and put in the options. It is a biotechnology method for gene editing and all that. But this is actually related to your defense technology. What is stow bar? Okay, I do not know how clear this image will be to you guys, but I'll try explaining the stow bar based on this. Can you see in this ship, at the end part of it, it is a bit raised? Can you all see that part? Like, look at this. It's a slanting in a very high manner, right? Now, in stow bar technology, what happens is, see, in the case of a ship, which, or in the case of a flight which is there, consider this is the ship which is there. So, according to the structure which is there, the ship is flat all the place. Here it is a bit high. So, what happens is, have you seen these diving swimmers diving? What they will do is, they will go onto a plank. They will stand over there. They will jump 1, 2, and then they will jump and get a height, and then they will fall into the water. Have you seen that diving thing which people do? Not just jumping into the swimming pool. On raised platform, they will be there, and from there they will be They will be actually coming to the pool which is there. Have you seen that kind of a thing? For example, like this. This must be the water. You have a height over here. You have a person which will stand. Initially, he'll jump once. Then he'll jump once again on that plank. And then finally, in one jump, he will reach a very good height. And then he will come and fall into, and he will be diving. Right. Now, some of you have seen it in Tom and Jerry. Very good comparison. But then I hope you understand that. That is enough. Now, in the stow bar technology, what they are trying to do is, similar to this diving action, if you have a flight from here, the flight will be going in this manner. Once it reaches at this point, which is here, naturally what is happening, because the height is like this, the flight tends to move in a manner which is quite high. So when it reaches to this platform, imagine this, the flight is coming, it reaches over here. From here it gets a momentum, because it has to put a lot of energy, no? It's an upward slope. If it's an upward slope, to move across the slope, you need a little bit more energy. With that energy, when the flight is going, what happens is, it gets a little bit more height. From here, so if you have a flight, it will move. At this point, the energy will increase, and you will see this coming out in a much more better height. Okay, now this is one part, but from it has already achieved a certain height. Now here is the next part of it. It's called as arrested recovery. What happens over here in the arrested recovery is, if you have a flight like this, and assume this is the flight which is going, at the tail end of the flight, they have certain very strong ropes, not your jute ropes and everything, different kind of very strong steel kind of ropes which are tied on to this ship which is there. This is the ship. So from the ship's part, they've tied it over there. What happens is, initially the aircraft will get a height. Once the aircraft gets a height, what starts happening is, each of those ropes will be smallly, it will be cut once, cut next, cut next. So each time a rope is cut, what happens? It goes a little bit more further, little bit more further. Because ideally you have a flight which is being pulled by the rope like this. It has reached a height. What happens is when you are leaving each of the rope, it will go reach a little bit height more. Which means what? Based on the kind of rope or the number of ropes I'm cutting off and I'm leaving off, the amount of height that I want the aircraft to reach can be adjusted. Understood? Is this part clear to you till here? So what happens is when it comes to the arrested thing which is there, if you don't want the entire flight to move to a very height which is there, you need not cut off all the, see, most of the cases these aircrafts are being even launched not for high amount of air fighting which is there. When you have two ships, you have one country's ship, you have an enemy country's ship, you don't need aircrafts to reach at a very good height. You need aircrafts to be reaching at the height of your enemy ship also which is there. Understand? So what happens is in the case of arrested recovery, you can either choose to either send out it into a very good height or you can keep it arrested at a lower height. This is the idea of your arrested recovery. So what is it? Short takeoff but arrested recovery. Short takeoff but you have that recovery which is there in an arrested manner. Is that clear? Is the stow bar technology clear to all of you? Yeah, it is connected. For example, at the tail end of the aircraft, you will have the rope. The rope will be connected to some part in the ship also. Okay, so from each time what happens is, it is this part which gets left off. Okay, from the ship, from the planes area only, they will be leaving off, or from that part itself, each time there will be a controlled operation. So what happens is, this rope is left. For example, there are three ropes holding it back. Now the aircraft needs to be in a little bit more height. So at one point what happens is, this rope will be cut off. So it moves a little bit. Now if you don't want that also, what is going to happen? You don't cut off that rope. So each of these ropes in a very, now there's a lot of physics involved in it, but then we don't have to go into the physics of it. But the idea is that you are trying to somehow control the motion of the aircraft through these ropes which are there. This is your stow bar technology. Again, clear? Yes. Okay. Now I can see better responses. See, now some of you asking the purpose of it. See, most of these technologies, when it comes to the Indian ships which are there, the idea that they are looking for is, they are not going, see, very easily they could have avoided this stow bar technology and have had some kind of a very high flowing aircraft which is there. They don't go for it because they are expecting that whenever there is a navy fight which is there, the kind of technology which your enemy ship has, we try to match up with that. So if they have a kind of technology which is having a low flying aircraft which can come and hit your ship, come and attack you at a much more shorter level, you will also need some kind of a technology like that. That is why stow bar has been used. Is this clear to all of you? No, in this case, in the case of a ship, this is on water, right? So what happens is, you don't have proper runways or anything. So what happens is, at that initial incline gives you a slight advantage of height. So the amount of energy, see, for example, in the case of a aeroplane or rocket or anything, you have huge amount of fuel which is being burnt. But in the case of a ship, you don't have that kind of, you are just trying to attack, or this is used for military purposes. It's not used for a flight for 3 hours or 4 hours. You will have a military aircraft, you try to attack the other enemy's aircraft using that. So for these purposes, you just need an amount of just initial urge which is there. And imagine all this is happening on a ship. How can you have all this full-fledged runway, all these other technologies? So they will do something in the design which will give an advantage from the physics point of view. That is why that kind of an incline has been made. Is that clear? Yes. So, Shubhanjali, this is for the Navy. It's in the Navy also we are using aircrafts. This is the idea. In the Navy which is there, it's commissioned for the, or it's given to the Navy which is there. In the Navy, otherwise how are you fighting with the ship? You don't take the ship, and it's not like in the Game of Thrones and all, you will throw fire at them. That is not how it is happening, no. So in this case what happens, you will have the ship, you will have aircrafts, you will have, in a very advanced area, you will have smaller ships coming out of it which will go and attack the ship or the enemy ship which is there. These are all the things you would study in the defense part of science and technology, but here you just need to know about this much. Now coming into the last question, and wait, after the last question is the game which is there, okay. So again, coming to this question, read the question properly. With reference to the indigenous aircraft carrier recently in the news, consider the following statements. It is designed by the DRDO and built by Cochin Shipyard Limited. With this, India became the only country other than Russia and USA to have designed and constructed its own aircraft carriers. Very simple question. Which of the following statements given are incorrect? Please don't make careless mistakes. It's incorrect that is being asked. Let me just launch the poll. Okay. Start marking your answers. Now. Somebody has given a much better this thing. Elena has said this is like skating. So in skating, you have that, you must have seen people go about the incline and, jump through the incline and all that, right? Yeah. You can use that. That would be the same kind of physics that is being working over here. Somebody's asked about the Juno mission. Juno mission is a mission to Jupiter and its moons. Okay. Yeah, I will not forget to show the leaderboard. Good one. Anmol has actually reminded me. See, this is the kind of thing I was saying. When I'm finishing it, you show me a message, you send out a message. I will remember it to show you then and there. I will show the leaderboard. Don't worry. Yes. Okay, leaderboard first. Then only I will talk, even do any kind of conversation itself. Can you all see the leaderboard? Okay. Okay, all good, all good. Hey, I saw. I'm not calling out any names, but then I'm seeing some of you who were there previously have not. Their names are not featured. Which question did you go wrong? You went wrong in this question. Is it, guys? Or you went wrong in that last previous question which was there? What is this? It is designed by DRDO and built by Cochin Shipyard. Is it designed by DRDO? No. I told you, you have Directorate of Naval Design which has designed it. So this is a wrong statement. With this, India became the only country other than Russia and US. I told you, there is US, there is UK, there is Russia, there is China. So you have all these other countries which are there. So India is not the only country other than Russia and USA which has happened to this. Both the statements are incorrect. So the answer is C. Where did you guys go wrong? I was seeing some of your names. There was no, I'm not going to tell the names and start a conflict here. Now coming into the game that I said, let's try doing this. So how many of you have played something called as bingo? Okay. Now see, bingo is basically what means that when after something, for example, this class is over. Okay. Now, if you've got there are certain things which I would be putting out on the screen right now. If you've understood that, and if you have got that correct clear, or the concept very clear, you mark that as a cross. Okay. So I'll just show you the screen over here. Science bingo. I'm calling it science bingo. Look at all the terms over here. It's in columns, right? So aquaponics, diversification, facial recognition technology, false positive, technological bias, smothering, aircraft carrier, stow bar technology. These were the most important terms that would help you in the UPSC journey in this class today. So if you've got, or if you have, so you take a moment, if you have that in a paper or something, you can write down all the terms. Just if you understood aquaponics, mark it like this. Okay, if you've understood smothering, mark it like this. If you've understood false positive, mark it like this. And at the end, I want to know, there are 8 things over here. How many of you bingoed on 8? As in, you all got 8 on 8 perfectly understood correct. 7 on 8, 8 on 8. Perfect, perfect. Good job, guys. Anyone, so some of you have that false positive thing again as a doubt. False positive means that, see, you must be thinking, can we just call the false positive a negative answer? The idea is you're looking for the same kind of person. For example, you're looking for someone with the facial features. Someone who has very similar facial features gets said, or they are detecting them as the murderer. But you are the one who've committed the murder. Now, don't you think that is a false positive? That means they have the same features. That is why the technology detected it. But that is actually a false outcome of it. This is the idea of false positive. But I'm so happy all of you have mentioned either 7 on 8, 6 on 8. Yes, very, very good. Where did I mention about Vikram? We were talking about this thing. We were talking about Vikrant and Virat. And then we talked about Vikramaditya. Okay, Vikramaditya is not decommissioned. Vikramaditya is still there in the army and is still there in the navy, which is there. Okay, false positive, is it all clear now? All of you. Smothering again means, very simply understand smothering as the method, or the process by which the organisms which are there in the water body, be it the plants and the animals, do not get enough oxygen for their survival. So it seems like somebody is trying to suffocate them. So they don't get enough oxygen, they don't get enough nutrients, and because of that, they die out. This is smothering. Okay? Okay, perfect. So I am seeing a lot of 8 to 8. You guys have made me very, very happy at this point. Now, those who have any questions other than any of these things, you can raise your questions here. I had asked 2 questions. It was who were the people? Yes, Ajit. If you have false positive, you can have even false negative. That can also occur in facial recognition technology. Good question. Yes, false negative can also occur. Where? Next one. Okay. So Amrita has asked, how is urban farming helping in integrated pest management? See, in the case of integrated pest management, what happens is, rather than just going and putting your insecticide on the crop, what happens in integrated pest management is, from the time you are creating the soil, okay, I mean curing the soil, watering the thing, at every other stage you can see if any kind of pest is there in the soil, any kind of pest is prone to attack. So now they are saying, when you do your urban farming which is there, what happens is, because already we're having very limited resources, so in this limited resources, at each stage you can check this pesticide, or not pesticide, any kind of organism will come and affect it, any fungus is coming, any virus is coming. So in this kind of a thing, in the rural area, what happens is, you see the pest happening, so it can come at some other area. You will not check so much if the soil is having any problem, if the water is having any problem. But in the case of urban agriculture, it can be ensured that each and every stage the pest control can happen. That is how it helps in integrated pest management. So Amrita, Deepshika, are you all? I think Deepshika is the one who had asked. Namira, what was your question? Second topic, second option, repeat. Second topic, you as in the question you're asking. Just a minute. Let me just see. Okay, Sonal has a general question on answer writing that I will deal with. Isn't technological bias just like discrimination? Yes, it is like discrimination. Then coming into, Namira has asked, second topic, second option, please repeat. Okay, that I'll get to that. Yes, ma'am. Okay, coming to jute economy. Let me just take the slides which are there. Jute economy would have been the, let's see. Okay. Okay, this is a question when it comes to this. So, Namira, your second topic, second option, you're saying India is the largest exporter of jute in the world. Namira, India is not the largest exporter of jute. India is the largest producer of jute. Producing is different from exporting. Producing means we are making a lot of jute, but whatever jute we are producing, we're not sending it out to the other countries. Bangladesh is the largest exporter of jute. Is that clear, Namira? Um, Next one. Technological bias means the kind of discrimination that happens by virtue of technology. By virtue means because you have a technology that is designed in an improper manner, the technology will start discriminating. Just like I earlier told you, see, you are just putting pictures out there, but the technology detects people who are dark skinned as criminals and people who are fair skinned as normal people. So that is a bias that the technology is creating, right? How is the technology creating that? That is because the people who design the technology have that kind of a bias. Somebody is designing the technology, right? Technology is not born out of the soil. So this is kind of a discrimination that happens because of the technology. Any other question? Yeah, Sarabjit, if all the litter is deposited on the back shore of the sea, this is back shore, not of the sea, Sarabjit. Back shore means it's on the land. Okay, so on the land, when it is over there, what happens is this is why we have that cleanliness beach drive, that is the Surakshit Sagar, Swachh Sagar, Surakshit Sagar, and all happening. Okay, now coming into one thing which urban farming is in a lot of places. Urban farming is being practiced in India. Lot of places. Nikhil, what is your question? I cannot see your question, which is there. Nikhil and Shubham, please. Nikhil, Shubham, Seni, please put your question. I'm not seeing the question which is there. What is your question, Shivanshi? Is it something related to a topic? Okay, let's see. Shubham has asked Tobar. Store bar. A lot of you want me to explain store bar again. Okay, I'll get to the store bar thing. Okay. Store bar is what a lot of you have a doubt in. Let's get to the store bar. Mm, 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 mm. Okay. See, store bar basically is a kind of technology that occurs in this kind of a aircraft carrier which is there. What is the advantage of it? See, the first thing you have to understand is when you have a ship at the sea, you are not going to take the ship and go and hit the enemy ship. You need to have aircrafts which can conduct any attack on the aircrafts coming from the enemy ship, which means you don't need aircrafts which are at a height that is there in the space. You need low lying aircrafts which are there, which are able to actually send out missiles. See, in this aircraft, how does aircrafts fight? If you've seen any movies and all that, in this aircraft there will be smaller missiles which are there, there will be bombs which are there. This is what is being put on the other enemy which is there. So to do that, what happens is, in this kind of ships, you have an inclined platform whereby which an aircraft, if you have a flight from here, the flight is coming. Once it reaches over here, what happens is, because there is an incline, imagine this, you have to imagine this if you've not seen all this, the skating and everything, you are moving over here at a height, at a speed. Once it reaches the incline, it moves a little bit up. Okay, but it doesn't move so much up. Why? Because at the tail end of that flight which is there, you have ropes connected to the ship. Okay, so you are seeing something which is suspended over there in that manner with all these ropes. Now, if I want my aircraft to go a little bit higher, see this, look, just imagine this. You are having these ropes pulled and kept like this. Those who have flown kites will know this. Imagine you have a kite and you have 3-4 ropes connecting it. When you cut one rope, what happens? It moves a little bit to a one point which is there. Right. So similarly, what happens is, in the case of the aircraft, you're pulling all this and keeping onto the ship. When you want a little bit movement for the aircraft, you release one rope. Then you can even release all the ropes and you can leave the aircraft, but that does not happen, because in this kind of technology, what is needed is, you need the aircraft suspended. At times you want the aircraft to move, at times you want it to be in one position. So the arrested recovery means, arrested means what? You're capturing it. Okay, at one point when the function of it is done, you will see that the ropes are the ropes, whatever is there, it will be untangled, and the aircraft comes back onto the ship. The aircraft is not getting destroyed. So the idea is, it's a short takeoff. Short takeoff means what? If you have a flight, you have a long movement. Finally, it will take off. Short takeoff means from this part which is there, it will take off, but you have arrested recovery because it captures and keeps it. Now, is it clear to all of you? Yes. Okay. Now coming into, I think, regarding this in the show. Okay, Swapnil, what was your question? Would excessive water not affect the roots as it is? No. Again, what happens is, Swapnil, in the case of the aquaponics or the hydroponics which are there, if you look at the constructions which are there, you will see that the plant is not, the root, the water that you give is not, it's not in such a manner that the plant is fully submerged in it. You will have minimum amount of water given to it in a way that the pores of the root, whichever is there, it gets submerged over here. Understand? And in this part which is over here, you will see that you have all the minerals being put. So it is not in such a way that the root will start rotting. Only very minimal necessary amount of water is being put, which has the necessary, what you say, minerals dissolved in it. Is this clear? You cannot have a barrier at the delta, because see, if you are even trying to stop the plastic in that manner, even the water gets stopped, right? So that will lead to a lot of flooding like situation. So you cannot have a barrier at the delta. What you can do is go and try to clean up whatever is getting deposited from the delta. Now, on what basis are you telling, like the urban farming is time consuming? The thing is that, see, when it comes to hydroponics or aquaponics or your vertical farming, the process, you, in the first place, you don't choose crops like coconut and banana and everything, that my coconut especially and all, which will take a longer time. You're looking at crops which will give you instant solutions or instant vegetables. Instant in the sense, again, the idea is that within a span of maybe 2 or 3 months. This is why you see a lot of vegetables and fruits being grown. Okay, so time consuming point, I'm not getting your angle over here. Why would you say the due to busy schedule? Seriously, guys, no. Urban agriculture is being practiced by a lot of people in the current times, mainly because people who are very health conscious and don't want to have all these pesticide residue things and all, they are practicing it. Okay. Mm, show me the first topic question. 1 minute. First topic was, okay, let's see, maybe it's here. Okay, Anchal, you wanted to see the question itself, right? Sarabjit has said something very, the golden temple has a vertical wall of plants. What is your question, Abhijit? I'm not able to see your question. Please put the question again. Now I'm looking at it. You can put the question again. Sri Lakshmi, the report which is mentioned is the CACP report, the Commission of Agriculture Pricing, which is there. Okay. I was waiting for Abhijit's question. Abhijit has not put it here. Now, if 1 rupee, No, that is what the idea of the arrested recovery is, that something will be cut off. That is why you need to have that kind of a recovery. This entire technology is based on the idea that you will have some kind of a pullback over there and you can have a cut off if needed. Anchal has asked to explain this question. See, in the case of aquaponics, it's not right, because here in the case of aquaponics, you have the fish culture also which is there. The fish is cultivated and then you have the nutrients also from the water which is there. So here they are saying the plants are grown without the soil. That part would be correct maybe, wherein all nutrients are pumped by adding them to the water from outside. No, the idea is wrong, because here you have your fish also over there and the nutrients are not pumped in from anywhere. The nutrients come from the waste that the fish produces. In the case of hydroponics, you pump in extra nutrient solutions which are there. That is why the statement is wrong. Is that clear, Anchal? Okay. See, now let me just point out 2-3 things to you. See, when you put out your questions over here, what happens is, most of the time, you, because it keeps on scrolling like this, whatever question that comes to me then and there is what I answer. Okay, so you, if you're feeling like, okay, my question is not answered or anything, that what happens in most of the time is, you can put out your question. I'm pretty sure the SMEs will be dealing with the answer. If you still have queries, again, this is again I'm giving you this, if you still have queries, you can always write it out to Target IAS which is there, and you can even ask them to say like, okay, this was explained, so you need to, you need an explanation, or you need to connect to the faculty, or whatever it is, that you can put it out there. So this will be helpful. Okay, so don't feel bad, guys. See, we've in the course of time, I hope I've been able to engage with a lot of your doubts which are there. Sonal has asked this one thing. See, now I was looking and I saw the question. That is when I read it. This is what happens. So again, I have a general question about answer writing. How much time should we take to write a 10 or a 15 marker when we are starting answer writing practice? This varies a lot, Sonal. So I know students who take up to 2 hours to write one 10 marker. Okay. So in the beginning phases, it is quite difficult. But ideal time, I can tell you, is 10 marker in your course of preparation. Initially, you might take maybe 15 minutes. You can reduce it to 10 minutes. And then finally, at the time of the exam, you will have to write it in 7 minutes. A 15 marker, you will have to write it in 11 minutes. These are the ideal times. But again, I'm telling you, in the beginning, it will be very difficult. So what happens is, people take longer time. No need to feel bad about it. Okay, nothing to feel bad about it. Okay, so now coming on to the final part of the session which is there. Today's topics, I believe, were quite interesting. I hope all of you understood the topics which are there. I hope you all have correct clarity on what all we've discussed. I have enjoyed the final bingo also, where I saw how much all of you understood this. So I hope, how many of you want that kind of a thing to continue? If at all we are, if when it comes to any of the sessions that I take, I can incorporate it anything else, these kind of things which are there. Yes. So a lot of you have expressed that idea also. Now I hope all of you will take care of yourselves, stay safe, which is over there. Don't have, if your answers have gone wrong in the poll, don't feel bad, because if that final bingo you were able to get at least 7 or 8 in a very correct manner, yes, you have actually understood the session. That is why I put it over there, because I see a lot of students feeling really bad, like, okay, my poll question went wrong, I'm feeling bad about it. I don't want anyone to feel bad after the class which is there. That is why we put a bingo over there, so that you can check if all the concepts are correct. So until I meet you guys again, which I'm very, very hopefully hoping to meet very soon, until I meet all of you again, take care, stay safe, and happy learning.